Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradburn. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and today is the grand finale of our series ranking the top 30 players currently in the NBA. We are on to the top 10 today, and all is right in the world, Logan. We have two functioning microphones. We're a day into March Madness, which is just wonderful. The Cal Bears won their first round in the NIT, and that's what most people are talking about right now. And we get to talk about the 10 best basketball players in the world. Does it get any better than that? Does it?
I was going to shout out VCU for beating UNC's ass, but shout out Cal, man. NIT balling.
Well, more people are talking about what Cal is doing in the NIT right now with a great win over the University of Illinois, Chicago. St. Joe's coming up, so that's going to be a big one. That's a strong program. Yeah, that VCU game was nuts, man. That was electric. They got a little magic as a program, don't they?
They do. First win for them since 2016. Pretty big deal. I'm hoping VA can keep it rolling today with hopefully UVA doesn't crap their pants, you know?
Sure. Well,
we'll see.
They've got a hell of a team this year, Logan. I just love that you pull for the state of Virginia at large, man. I find that inspiring. I root for the Bay Area teams, which there's only one of other than Cal, really, and it's St. Mary's. And they've always got a good program, and they always flame out in the tournament. They've been like a top 7 seed for 5 straight years, and I think they've won like 2 total tournament games in that time because I'm going to be real with you, man. They just don't have the athletes. They just don't have the creators off the dribble. And they try to slow the game down, and they've got shooting, but they just can't create advantages, and it ends up fizzling out against the really good team. So there you go. That's 90 seconds of March Madness talk. That's all you're going to get because we just don't know that much, man. We're just enjoying it like fans tuning in for the tournament like everybody else. That being said, we do need to catch you guys up on our top 30 players up to this point before we get into the top 10. So you're going the whole time, oh my God, where's Malik Monk? Where's Malik Monk? We already had him just off this episode at number 11. Logan, who is actually in your 30 through 11 spots?
Yeah, so in my 30 spot, I had Denny Avdia. In my 29 spot, Karl Anthony Towns. 28, Julius Randle. 27, Jalen Johnson. 26, Jalen Duren. 25, Rudy Gobert. 24, LeBron James. 23, Brandon Ingram. 22, Scotty Barnes. 21, Pascal Siakam. 20, James Harden. 19, Jamal Murray. 18, Bam Adebayo. 17, Evan Mobley. 16, Chet Holmgren. 15, Jaylen Brown. 14, Jalen Brunson. 13, Devin Booker. 12, Tyrese Maxey. And 11, Kevin Durant.
I had in my 30 spot Jalen Johnson, 29 Jalen Williams, 28 Jason Tatum, 27 Derek White, 26 Bam Adebayo, 25 Denny Avdia, 24 LeBron, 23 Spicy P, 22 Evan Mobley, 21 Scotty Barnes. In my 20 spot, I had Zion at 19, James Harden, 18 Jamal Murray, 17 Jaylen Brown, 16 Chet Holmgren, 15 Devin Booker, 14 Joel Embiid, 13 Tyrese Maxey, 12 Jalen Brunson, and 11 Kevin Durant. So crash out about any of those if you like, but remember, that's in the past. We're not revisiting any of that today. We've already talked about these rankings for a total of 5 hours in the first 2 episodes. So there is plenty of discussion about that you can go back and watch from those previous 2 episodes if you want. Today, we are into the top 10, and we have the same 10 players, Logan. Obviously, we don't know about the order, but we do know that, which is going to be nice and clean. So who is in your 10 spot?
In my 10 spot, I actually called an audible on this guy last night before I went to sleep. It just felt right. I have Kawhi Leonard here in my 10 spot. And I think Kawhi's game has aged so gracefully. The fact that he is always going to be one of the strongest guys on the court allows his scoring to just translate so easily into the playoffs. I mean, the guy is... You ranked him as one of the top 10 jump shooters of all time. I think that's a great take, man. I mean, Kawhi feels literally like he's just got aimbot on at times when he works his way to the elbow. He has a very simplified shot diet, but it is so effective. He's going to work his way to his spot, and he's going to get to an efficient look. I mean, he is just efficient everywhere across the floor. 75% in the restricted area, 54% in the paint non-restricted area, 47% in the mid-range, 46% on pull-ups. It's kind of unbelievable what Kawhi is doing at his age and considering his shot diet and his athletic limitations. You know what I mean? Like, it is amazing to me that Kawhi is still this effective. Basically, strength being his only really defining elite attribute. You know, he doesn't have that explosiveness. He's got, Kawhi's got a really good handle, but it really is predicated on that strength. He's given you 28, 6, and 4 on 63% true shooting this year. The only knock I have on Kawhi is really two things and why I bumped him down 2 spots before we started this episode. The first thing is simply availability concerns, where Kawhi going to the playoffs, I always do worry about how often is this guy going to be available. Can he give me all he can for 7 games in a series? I don't know. That's been a question about Kawhi for a few seasons now. That is not really my biggest concern. It's really the fact that Kawhi just can't take on that kind of on-ball role the way that I think some of these other guys can night in, night out. Now, Kawhi is giving me total value in terms of the defensive assignments that he can take on. I think he's more impactful than a few players that are above him. Actually, I'd say, yeah, a lot of guys ahead of him here in this top 10. But I really do value that ability and me being able to entrust. I'm going to put the ball in your hands. You're going to dominate it. You're going to find and generate a bunch of good looks, not only for yourself, but for your teammates. And so when I put those two little concerns, because I think Kawhi deserves to be in this top 10, when I put those two concerns together, it's enough for me to leave him down here at 10, where I just feel like other guys over the course of a full, again, 82-game season and playoff run, I'm going to be able to entrust them more with offensive responsibility and trust that they're going to hold up and manufacture not only elite shots and elite results for themselves, but for their teammates as well.
Yeah, I think the lack of playmaking, passing value with Kawhi is the criticism on him, but I also think you have to consider just what a truly ridiculously valuable scorer of the basketball he is, and how his ability to do so at such massive volume with such great efficiency, the balance between on and off ball scoring, the ability to impose himself and stress defenses as a scorer is so supreme, and also has translated so well to the playoffs, that he really is one of the most impactful offensive players in basketball, even if he does only average 3 to 5 assists a game year over year. And I think we're seeing Kawhi this season as good as he's ever been offensively. He's literally averaging career highs in points per game and doing so on career best efficiency. I think he is back offensively. So I do have him higher than this. I have him in my 7 spot. Now, I understand there's a difference in criteria here where you are considering availability and my list is presuming full health for all these guys. So if I were also factoring in injury concerns, I do think Kawhi would be a little bit lower. But man, the fact that he is averaging this season 28 a game on 63% true shooting, and specifically since December 20th, which is when you felt like he really got a rhythm because he was banged up early in the year and he really started looking like the best version of himself and just like totally saved and turned around the Clippers season on a dime. In those 37 games, he is giving you 37 and 4 on 64% true shooting, and he has the Clippers with a 26 and 11 record. That is for long stretches without James Harden or Darius Garland, with this team that without him earlier in the year was a complete disaster. Overall this season, the Clippers are 4-12 without Kawhi Leonard, and they are 30-24 with him. But as I mentioned in this recent stretch, which is an extended stretch of almost 40 games with him on the court, they've been an elite team. He's got a plus 12.5 on-off differential. He improves their offense by 10 points in terms of offensive rating, and that is the thing that I want to hammer home with him. Again, the scoring is just so valuable that it does lead to elite impact in this sort of unique way. I think Kawhi is still clearly a top 5 scorer on the planet. I just think he feels unstoppable more often than not, given the combination of elite strength, elite size, the elite handle, and the absolutely ridiculous shot making. He's 51% on intermediate twos, and he gets 9.5 points per game like that. One of the absolute best mid-range scorers, not just in the NBA today, but in NBA history. So his ability to just chisel his way to those spots, physically impose himself, shoot over top of you, it's so damn reliable, again, especially in the more physical playoffs. And then he shoots 38% on catch and shoot threes. He shoots 38% on pull-up threes. Like, the ability to kill you as a jump shooter on or off ball is just incredible. And overall, he is one of the most efficient self-creators in basketball. Scores 1.1 points per pick and roll, post up, ISO, all the creation types. I mean, he can barbecue you in all those different ways. 95th percentile creation true shooting percentage overall. Doesn't get to the rim a lot at this point, but does make 75% of his attempts there. When he does get to the free throw line, is obviously all-time great at converting those shots at a 90% clip, and he's getting to the line at damn near a career high rate this season, almost 7 times a game, which is pretty much double what it was from last year. I just think when you give this guy enough of a runway, when his body stays healthy to the point where he can really build momentum and reach peak form, there's not 7 basketball players on the planet better than him. And when you look at the offensive production and efficiency, and you look at the absolutely ridiculous impact, like, how many dudes on the planet could have this Clippers team winning 70% of their games for more than half of the season up to this point? I just don't see many guys who can do that. And so I understand the knock would be the passing, at times dealing with doubles. He can get a little bit selfish and just doesn't really have particularly good vision in those spots. And his defense is just pretty average at this point. Like, I would agree that he can take on a matchup in a spot and at times can defend on ball at a relatively high level, but he is overall not a super impactful defender. And that's really the difference between him and peak Kawhi, because offensively, I think he is every bit as good. So I am higher on Kawhi than you. I think when he's been on the court, he has been playing at a first-team All-NBA kind of level this season. I really do. In my 10 spot, I have another guy who actually is going to make a really strong case for first-team All-NBA, and unfortunately, the question with both him and Kawhi is going to be, do they end up playing enough games? Because this guy now may miss the rest of the regular season, and that is Cade Cunningham with the collapsed lung, unfortunately.
That's who I originally had in my 10 spot.
So is Cade in your 9 spot now then? And if so, why?
Cade, like I said, I really thought on this before I went to sleep last night, and I was going to make a judgment call this morning. It really is just the fact that I trust Cade more so to take on that kind of on-ball responsibility every single game and deal with that kind of wear and tear. And I think that's just a little bit more valuable than what Kawhi brings me. But I understand the argument for Kawhi. And, analytically as well, you mentioned it, even though Kawhi doesn't have this kind of crazy pronounced playmaking impact individually now, the Clippers' offense analytically has been slightly better with Kawhi on the court than the Pistons' offense has been at their best with Cade on the court. It's only by 0.3 points in offensive rating, but Kawhi's impact does certainly surpass the raw box score totals, but it's the difference in really the ability to impose himself on both ends of the court consistently more than Kawhi. Because I unequivocally, I completely agree with you on the scoring translatability to the playoffs. And that's the big knock on Cade, right? The fact that he's 30% on catch and shoot threes. He's 63% in the restricted area. He's 42% in the paint non-restricted area. Cade is one of the game's elite mid-range scorers, and I can't stress that enough. He's 48% out of the mid-range. He lives on shots there. If he gets any kind of smaller guard on him, Cade is so good at weaponizing his physical advantages, his height, his strength to get to good looks. But you don't want to live on that shot diet when you come to the playoffs unless you're a guy like SGA. And SGA doesn't live on that shot diet. He's even better at getting downhill and getting to the rim, and he's way more efficient, right? But, you want to be up towards that kind of level and also have counters as well. You don't want to just live off the mid-range shot, and that is where, I don't feel like it's a hot take to say that will leave him for a few games in the playoffs. We've seen it down the stretch here in the regular season, and I really do pray to the basketball gods after this career year that Cade comes back healthy from this collapsed lung, can get, I'm not even asking for a whole runway. Can you give me a week for Cade to play himself into form before the playoffs? Because I don't really want that to be a complicating factor when we go to the playoffs. I'm already a little bit worried about Cade's game translating. I'm more worried now with the lung, but that is why I would understand and hear an argument, because Kawhi's scoring is so translatable, so bankable across any defense, and that's the big area that you worry about with Cade. But again, the only reason why I went with Cade over Kawhi is I just know that Cade, with his youth, can give me more, I feel like, consistently on offense and defense on a night-to-night basis and just exert himself a little bit more.
Yeah, I get it. Cade is going to create more total offense for your team. I do think, though, the difference that I have in terms of my confidence when you get to a playoff environment and Kawhi just carving you up as a scorer and the ceiling of an offense that can be built around Kawhi, because yes, Cade is going to produce with more total volume, but Cade is also an extremely ball-dominant player, and part of that is, sure, in his situation, he has to be, but as you mentioned also, he's really struggled as a catch-and-shoot guy, so I don't have a lot of confidence in him playing with another ball handler, whereas Kawhi, I know, is going to excel alongside another ball handler, and so it's just that combination of on-ball and off-ball and crazy scoring value that makes me more confident in Kawhi propelling a team to the highest heights. And I understand that, like, Kawhi has done a great job, but Cade has also done an amazing job with the Pistons this season. I just think what Kawhi has done has gotten underrated because the Clippers started the year so poorly. And again, a lot of that when he was off the court. They've been absolutely miserable without him. Whereas the Pistons, even though we look at their talent and we're like, it's not super sexy on paper, like they have won the non-Cade minutes. They've been good in the non-Cade games. Cade transforms their offense, but I do think they have the better roster than the Clippers because that defense of theirs is just so exceptional. So I land on Cade in my 10th spot. Now, he does create the 4th most points per game in the entire NBA, and I think his ability to take on massive offensive volume with a bad offensive supporting cast, definitely a limited offensive supporting cast, really limited creation alongside him, not a lot of shooting alongside him, wonky space. He has an ability to still score at good volume with decent efficiency, and of course he's an elite playmaker. He's a brilliant pick and roll passer. Overall, giving you 24.5, 6 and 10 on just under 57% true shooting. It's not that different from last year in terms of the box score production. I do think he's made some subtle improvements, though, like getting the turnover rate down a little bit, getting the free throw rate up a little bit, some improvements on the margins there. And then, as you said, his strength as a scorer is really what he can do from the intermediate areas, even though between what you're talking about, the true mid-range, but then also inside the paint, outside the restricted area, I sort of combine those into intermediate scoring overall. Some people call it like the short mid-range versus the long mid-range. Like, he's about 45% on those shots overall. So as you said, not what you want to be living off of. He is not like one of the absolute best shot makers from that range in the NBA. He is a very good one, though. And the ability to leverage his size. I mean, I love his post-up scoring game when he has a mismatch, the footwork and the fadeaway. Like, he is a very aesthetically pleasing scorer from the mid-range and a very good one, too. And he's improved this team's offense by almost 7 points. They're a +4 relative offense when he's on the court. Like, the ability to pick up those around him with this group, I do think has been really impressive. And then the other thing that we always have to praise with Cade is the ability to have this on-ball, offensive, high-level creator guard who can also be a real solid defender and who it's very easy to build an elite team defense around like Detroit has done. That's where he gets props, and you can look at a Jalen Brunson and say, oh, Brunson's a better offensive player than Cade, and I would totally agree. But whereas I always have to worry with Brunson about how am I covering up for him on the defensive end, how does that affect my team build? With Cade, I know that he can still elevate those around him offensively in a big way. He's not quite Brunson offensively, but he can also enable me to build such a stellar team defense. He's a good defensive rebounder. He's a very good rim protecting wing. He averages like 2.5 stocks a game. He's legitimately good at guarding wings and bigger forwards off switches. Like, I think maybe sometimes Cade gets overrated defensively. I don't see it that much, honestly, but I just think this often happens with like stars who are in any way perceived as two-way players. Like, Cade as an on-ball defender is not somebody who I really want to switch on to like smaller, shifty guards. He can struggle in that matchup, but nevertheless, I would say a slight plus overall on that side of the ball, and that makes it a real plus when you talk about the ease of building a very good team around him. The knocks are what you said, where he struggles to finish efficiently at the rim. In the restricted area, he's a 34% three-point shooter. In the intermediate shots, where almost half of his total shots come from, he is good, not great in terms of the efficiency there. There's just nowhere that he's really an elite scorer. And so he can be forced into a really tough shot diet. And I worry about that in certain big matchups against really good team defenses, teams that have big sort of wing types who they can throw at him, who can match him physically, who can stick with him on drives. The Cavs, the Spurs, the Suns, the Celtics, teams like that, we have seen him really struggle against, where he might shoot 30% from the field in some of those matchups. And that's where the scoring is the knock on Cade. He can get his volume, but the struggle to do so efficiently can be a limiting factor for his impact on the game and the team offense overall. And then, as we mentioned earlier, the hyper ball dominance and the issue shooting off the catch, I think, does raise some questions about his offensive scalability and whatnot. But I do think, as I said, even though he's flawed offensively, the team build around him is easier than it is with Brunson, for example. And compared to KD, who I had in my 11 spot, I think he can just lead a team much more easily. Like, that's where the difference in volume creation really does matter. Like, I think there's a distinction to be made between even Kawhi and KD at this point. I think Kawhi can much more easily take over a game than KD, who just can struggle more to deal with elite athletes and everything we talked about with him last episode. So I know I'm not the highest on Cade, but I do think he is a damn good basketball player. I think what he's done this year is really, really impressive. I just am maybe lower on his offense than some because of some of the efficiency and scoring concerns I have. And what does that look like in a deep playoff run? Can he lead to good enough half-court offense? But I give him props for what he has done for this team. And I think it's always important to talk about this guy with the understanding that he is not a finished product. This is a guy who just a couple years ago, a lot of people were out on, and they were saying, oh my God, Cade Cunningham, is he a bust? And I defended him at that point. And I think he has just consistently improved in some subtle ways since then, but ways that have made a meaningful difference. And if he can get to a spot where he's like a really good three-point shooter, which I think is possible, like, I don't see why we could rule out the possibility of him getting there when he's a good mid-range shooter. He's 84% from the line. Like, it is significant that we're 5 years into his career and he's still shooting 34% from deep, but like, the shooting talent, I think, is there. And if he gets to that level where he's 38, 39% from three at volume, I think top 5 is a possibility for Cade because of what that would do for his scoring arsenal, having like an actual lethal weapon like that he can get to off the bounce. And then you combine that with the playmaking and the slight plus defense, like, he could really be one of the absolute top players in the game.
I mean, I was just going to say he's 37% on pull-up threes.
Yeah, but the catch and shoot threes have been a real problem this year, and he's never had that season where he puts it together as a three-point shooter overall.
I don't think it's uncharacteristic for a guy to struggle more off the catch when he's way more comfortable with the ball in his hands. I think that's
definitely
something
not.
that I notice across basketball. So, I mean, like, in my opinion, yeah, like, he needs to get better. I think it's easier to get better at catch and shoot threes than it is off the dribble. So I think it's going to honestly just needs a co-star who could actually feed him and hit him in his spots.
I don't think it's really that. I mean, I think you were right initially, which is there are certain dudes, especially like these ball-dominant guards, who are just way more comfortable shooting off the dribble. Like, Luka is another guy who can go on these torrid runs as a pull-up shooter, as we're seeing right now, but has never been a good three-point shooter off the catch. James Harden is a better three-point shooter off the catch by the percentages, but I still think somebody who is more comfortable shooting off the dribble. Like, there's a lot of those guys. I don't know that you can just say it's a given that, oh, if Cade were playing with a better ball handler alongside him, he would just become a better catch and shooter. No, I'm just saying he would get more
reps where Cade's not getting any of those reps whatsoever where he's off ball at all. You know, he's always got the ball in his hand, so it's just not really a skill that he works on at all in game. So I don't think
he takes a couple catch and shoot threes a game. I just think you can sort of overcomplicate it however you want. Cade is a 34% three-point shooter for a reason in his career. He's consistently in that range. And I'm just saying if he gets that number up into the high 30s, that's when I think he reaches a different ceiling as a player, if he can do that. I don't think the rim finishing is ever going to get meaningfully better. I think there are just limitations in terms of burst and athleticism around the basket there that have consistently been an issue, but the shooting talent is where I do see potential for him to be better from beyond the arc. So let's keep it moving, Logan. Who is in your 8th spot? Why don't you go ahead?
I've got Donovan Mitchell here in my 8th spot, and Donovan Mitchell, the best number that I can give you about Donovan Mitchell is the fact that when he's on the court, he's leading the Cavs to an offensive rating of 123.1. That is the second highest number of any player that we are going to talk about today, to only Nikola Jokic. That is a staggeringly great number, and I think Donovan Mitchell has maybe become maybe the most underrated player in basketball. I don't know, man. I don't think Donovan ever really gets fully appreciated in a way that is warranted. I don't ever think it's enough. I hear Cade Cunningham, MVP, Jaylen Brown, MVP. He's better than those guys. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why the Celtics are good without Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown gets all the shine, but Donovan Mitchell has been whipping ass for 3 years, and we just don't talk about it. And I think he's separated this year. I legitimately think he's gotten better. You know, I mean, I had him in D-Book conversations. I said I like the athletic imposition of Donovan Mitchell, the playoff scoring translatability. Mitchell is so damn good, and the reason for him being over a guy like Cade is literally just the simple fact that I just completely believe in him in a different way when we're talking about going to the playoffs and leading to great team offense and specifically getting his own buckets. The guy is wired to score. This season, he's giving you 28, 5, and 6 on 61% true shooting. I mentioned that offensive rating number. The Cavs are 10 points better overall with Mitchell on the court versus off. And in his minutes in which he is on the court versus off, he's improving his team's overall three-point efficiency by nearly 4% and their true shooting percentage by 2.9%. And he's just a damn great number one, man. And I think he's so good on ball and off ball. He's a 41% catch and shooter. He's 67% in the restricted area, 52% in the paint non-restricted area. He's one of the best pull-up scorers and mid-range scorers in basketball, 50% out of the mid-range, 40% on pull-ups. And, I mean, Mitchell in the lane, too, he's just got such a good shot diet and diverse shot profile. If they're pull-ups out of the mid-range, if it's three-pointers, if it's shots in the lane, Mitchell has so many different gathers, and he's got great footwork. He can get to so many different looks. And he's just going to lead to great team offense. I don't think he is in this next little pocket of upper echelon offensive creators. I think you could argue Mitchell maybe has a higher scoring floor than some of the guys above him, but I think the scoring ceiling and overall offensive impact is surpassed by a few guys above him. But I don't really have anything negative to say about Donovan Mitchell at all. If Donovan Mitchell was my starting point for a basketball team, one, I would be very happy, and two, I would wholeheartedly and be very confident in my ability to build a legitimate championship contender around him. Because he is this really great offensive player individually too, but he can be a cog in a good team defense too. The guy's got good size. He's gives you good effort and energy. I don't have anything bad to say about Donovan Mitchell other than the fact that I just think this guy is completely underappreciated. I think he has gotten way too much blame for the Cavs underachieving over the past few years when I think it has more to do with other guys getting injured at the wrong times and really nothing else. And, you know, maybe them being a little too young and ahead of schedule. Donovan Mitchell's the man. I have nothing negative to say about the guy.
Yeah, I do feel like we're at a point with him where he's been so good for so long that people have started to just take it for granted, and they're not necessarily moved by him going out there and having a 28, 5, and 6 on 61% true shooting. Even though I do think this is the best Mitchell we've ever seen, I think it's the best season he's ever had. The criticism that I feel like gets thrown against him a lot is, oh, he's never been in the conference finals. And I think that's kind of telling about the standard he's held to as a player while not getting the requisite credit. Because it's like conference finals, man. Having not made one, that was the criticism for like Chris Paul for a time, Joel Embiid. Like, that's kind of only a knock when you're talking about a really special kind of talent. it's not just a given, an expectation that like whatever a fringe top 10 level player is going to get to the conference finals in the NBA. But Donovan Mitchell has been on a lot of really good teams and he's had good supporting casts, but he's been the best player on a lot of damn good teams. And okay, they haven't made the conference finals, but they absolutely can this year. And then is public opinion of Donovan Mitchell going to flip on a dime? I think some people can kind of overthink it when it comes to criticizing him. I think some people can overplay the small guard with him when his length and his athleticism and some of his off-ball instincts put him into a different category of defensive competence than some guys who might be literally the same height as him. Like, I do believe that Mitchell is a fine defensive player. I think some people can get overly critical of him at times getting in this like very score first mode, and they can overlook the fact that he is one of the most effective playoff scorers in NBA history. I think it goes both ways. Like, I love his ability to take over a game. When you talk about the scoring ceiling of a Donovan Mitchell, I mean, the guy scored 70 in a game once, obviously, but when he is in full downhill mode and taking games over in the paint, and then he is also selectively raining pull-up threes on you, man. Like, he gets in this unstoppable mode.
I agree. He can just get to the two most efficient shots in basketball with ease. Yep. And yeah, like you said, man, he's unstoppable. Take over a game.
Like what he did against Orlando in games 6 and 7 of that series in the 2024 playoffs, like absolutely ridiculous. He drops 50 and 39 on you back to back. And overall, like the playoff scoring resume with this guy is really damn impressive. He has consistently scored with massive volume, like 28 plus points per game, and he's done so on solid efficiency. And I do think at times he can ice his teammates out and he can fall too much in love with the pull-up three. I want him to be playing downhill, but I think this season we've just seen the best version of Mitchell. I think we've arguably seen him at his best as a playmaker. He is a gifted playmaker, probably more so than he gets credit for, but has really tapped into that this year, honestly, to elevate his teammates. And that's why he's been such an elite offensive engine, along with the fact that, like, the scoring is just ridiculous. He's 9th in total points per game created. And I love how much we have seen downhill Donovan Mitchell this year, because I do think that's when he's at his best. And he's setting career highs in 2-point percentage, free throw rate. He's attempting 4.4 shots a game in the restricted area this year. That was just 3.5 last year, so a big uptick there. And he's gotten substantially more efficient at the rim. He's finishing 67% of those attempts. Like, for a smaller guard, that is an elite number. And obviously, I mean, he's just got a ridiculous finishing skill set with the athleticism, the burst, the vertical pop he has around the basket, but also the footwork in the lane, the variety of finishes, the spin moves in traffic. Like, I love watching Donovan Mitchell attack the basket. He's one of the absolute best that we have at it. And then the other improvement he's made this year is his intermediate game is one of the very best in the NBA. Like the floaters, the paint touch shots, he's been ridiculous at that stuff, but he's added the true mid-range game at another level this year. He's 51% on all intermediate twos, and he scores 7 points per game off those shots. So he's been elite there. And then, of course, he has the ability to catch fire on pull-up threes at massive volume. And he can also go cold from there, and he has recently. And that's when you can be frustrated with some of his tendencies. But overall, he's a very good three-point shooter. He's 36.5% from deep this year. He's an outstanding transition scorer. So there is just so much about his scoring that I love, that I think translates so well to the playoffs, where he can take over as a scorer at every level. The combination of downhill pressure, finishing, floater range, mid-range scoring, the elite pull-up three-point shooting, the combination he has there is really absurd. And there's a significant gap between like him and Cade as scorers. Now, Cade is, of course, the better passer playmaker, but there is so much about Mitchell's offensive game that I really do think translates to the playoff environment, and that ability to carve a defense up, to consistently pressure the paint like that, to be such a prolific scorer at every level. I do just trust that more when it comes to really imposing yourself offensively in that environment. And then there also is the playmaking, where he has the ability to consistently get downhill and create for others. And he's a creative passer, really good live dribble, one-handed passer, can throw some of these baseball passes and create for shooters with real high velocity, some high-level passes. And he's a lethal catch and shoot guy too, which is another meaningful advantage for him. Like, it's not at all a given that a player like Mitchell, who's one of the elite pick and roll players in basketball, can also slot in alongside a Darius Garland or a James Harden. And it's like, oh yeah, I can play coming off screens. I can make over 41% of my catch and shoot threes and take 3.5 of them a game. Like, he's really a supreme offensive talent. And that's where you see he's improved their offense by 10 points when he's on the court this year. He's gotten them to a 123 plus offensive rating over the last 2 years. Like, it's a pretty incredible carry job, especially when you consider, okay, he's had a lot of offensive talent alongside him. He had Garland last year. He's had Harden just for this recent stretch this year. But if you look at over the last 2 years, we have over 2,200 minutes of Mitchell playing without either of those guys. And in those minutes, they have a 122 offensive rating. So I get that there's this instinct to pair Mitchell with an elite playmaking guard like a Garland or a Harden. And I think that team build has been very successful when Garland was healthy, with Harden now on the team. But I also think Mitchell has shown that he can elevate you to such offensive heights on his own that, as we've discussed, there's a real argument the best team build around him is give him a good two-way center like Evan Mobley, and then just put a bunch of shooters and guys who can defend on the wings around him, and you can be a very good team defense like that, as we've seen the Cavs have been in the minutes Mitchell has played without Garland over the last couple years, and he alone can make you an elite offense still. I do think that he's had good talent alongside him. I think this year is the best team build that the Cavs have ever put with him. And so I'm just really optimistic about Donovan Mitchell. I am. I understand the little nitpicks you can have offensively, but I do think he is such an elite scorer, such an elite offensive player, and being just an okay defender is fine when you're talking about these sort of guards. It's an advantage for him over a Brunson, for example. And like when he's on the floor without Garland since last year, the Cavs have a defensive rating 5 points better than league average, and they're better than a plus 11 net team. They've been dominant in those minutes. So I do think it's easier to build a great team around Mitchell than he often gets credit for. So I have Mitchell in my 9 spot. Logan, I'm going to allow you to stay a step ahead of me here because I don't want to do one of my signature 30-minute monologues consecutively. Who is in your 7 spot?
I would hear an argument if someone wanted to make one for Donovan Mitchell above this guy. I can't believe I have him this low. I'm disappointed in myself. I have Anthony Edwards here in my 7 spot.
You're disappointed in yourself?
Yes, I am disappointed in myself.
That's real love, man. That is passion. That is beautiful, Logan. You guys, you are more than 2 individuals. You are a connected unit, you and Anthony Edwards. Literally born on the same day, man. That's not a coincidence. That's literally twin. That is Twizzy.
I love him, bro. I love Anthony Edwards, and yet
that's awesome.
My rational brain will not allow me to put Ant above a guy like Steph Curry. And I've made the argument in the past, and I thought about making the argument on the show today. I thought about coming in here and saying the downhill physical imposition that Ant can impose in an individual series in a game. Steph just isn't physically capable of doing that anymore. So what was the differentiator for me? Why did I end up going with Steph Curry over a guy like Anthony Edwards? The deciding factor is when I dove into the offensive analytics, I just think Steph enhances everybody on my team more, and Anthony Edwards doesn't. Now, it's so interesting, right? Because when you watch Timberwolves games, it's so clear that like Ant doesn't trust other players on his team, where he'll be getting double and triple teamed, and he's not swinging the rock. And so much so that it is frustrating as a viewer, and it is a detriment to the team offense. And I just can't overlook that. So albeit lackluster talent around him, I just have to come to the fact that and accept that Ant has real playmaking limitations and enhancing teammate limitations, where Steph always has his gravity, right? And that's going to not show up in the raw box score. But Steph's also just a legitimately great playmaker. And analytically, Steph on the court, his offenses have been better than Ant's offenses when he is on the court. Also interrelated with that, I don't think Anthony Edwards is a good defender. And that was another thing where when I was looking at this, and you can, again, think of it in a vacuum. Oh, Ant has all these athletic and physical tools. It doesn't really matter to me when Ant is so routinely disengaged off ball. And so I'm sitting here and I'm going, Ant has the athletic advantages offensively and defensively. But what does it really mean? Not that much. I don't know how much he actually leverages these athletic opportunities into, and parlaying them into actual results. That's my hang up. And it was very close. I think this was the toughest decision I had to make on this list today, Ant versus Steph. But the numbers that did it for me were the fact that Steph improves his team's three-point percentage with him on the court by 4%. Steph also improves the true shooting percentage of his team by nearly 6% with him on the court. When you dive into those numbers with Anthony Edwards, they're basically even. And so I think you can...
Can I add one more number that is so remarkable for Steph? And obviously it's one of his greatest superpowers as a player. He also improves his team's rim frequency and rim efficiency both by 3% when he's on the court, which is, of course, his gravity pulling everybody defensively away from the basket, thus opening it up for all his teammates in this totally unique way historically.
Yeah, and so... all of those numbers are very important to me, and the ultimate reason why I went with Steph over a guy like Ant. Because you can look at the counting numbers, and they are gaudy, and they are ridiculous, and Ant is still a great basketball player. That's why he's at number 7. But when I'm nitpicking him against the top 6, this was where I'm going to hold Ant's feet to the fire and be critical of his limitations. He is giving you 30, 5, and 4 on 62.1% true shooting. It's staggering. 7.4 free throw attempts per game, 10 points in the paint per game, 71% in the restricted area. The guy is shooting, and I can't believe this is a real number, 50% on catch and shoot threes. That's incredible. But again, when I really think about it from a starting point, I just would rather start with Steph. And I also thought about the injuries with Steph this year. That doesn't really matter to me. Steph's been a rock basically every single season of his career except one. But when I really got down to it and I was thinking about playoff offense and what's the most valuable skill to have, I really do still think that Steph clears him as an offensive engine, and that is more valuable than what I'm getting in totality. The other argument I would hear is that Ant's scoring floor and impact floor is higher than Steph's at this stage in his career because of the athletic gifts. But again, I just think Steph completely clears him as an offensive engine, as a playmaker, as a decision maker, and really, again, when I get down to it, fully enhancing everybody around him in a way that Ant still isn't doing. I'm not going to say capable of, because I do think he is capable of. I think one day the playmaking is going to become a big part of Ant's game because it has to, or Ant will have legitimately plateaued. I don't have to worry about that with Steph. And again, I think Ant can get overrated as a defender in a way that really doesn't matter to me in a conversation against a guy like Steph.
Yeah, I have Steph higher than Ant too. I think it's more so about defending Steph because it's so easy for people to forget when they don't see him on the basketball court. But my God, the difference between their offense with him and without him, if you look at the numbers, if you watch the games, it is as big as any in the NBA. There is still such an all-time great offensive impact with him that I do think clearly surpasses the overall impact of Ant. That's not to say that it isn't very close, but if you're saying, all right, you got to start a playoff run with one guy or the other, like I would take Steph because of the absolutely monumental things he does for my offense. That being said, Anthony Edwards has been the best player on back-to-back Western Conference Finals teams. Like, let's not take that for granted. Obviously, very good basketball teams that the Timberwolves have built around him, a couple of elite defenses, a couple of offenses chock full of shooting. Previous years, really good depth. This year, they've even been able to rehabilitate that depth a bit, bringing in an Ayo Dosunmu. The Timberwolves are just a very good organization right now, but Ant is, of course, the juice that makes the whole thing go. And I do think he's having the best year of his career. Like, he is giving you career best scoring volume, career best scoring efficiency, and he is pretty absurdly terrifying as a scorer. Like, his rim efficiency is significantly better this year. Sometimes that's been a criticism of Ant that, well, first of all, he can drive into like a ton of traffic, but doesn't have like elite finishing touch. So we talked about this like in the playoffs last year, right? Where it's like Ant kind of misses a lot of layups. This year, he's 71% in the restricted area. Like, that's a really fantastic number. He's also, of course, hitting over 40% of his 9 3-point attempts a game. And even though I think he still doesn't have the most nuanced, developed intermediate game, still doesn't really have a floater, it's better this year than it's been before. So Ant's having a really, really great scoring season. but I do still have some concerns about the playmaking. I do think that he struggles to diagnose more complex defensive coverages at times. I do think he can be a ball stopper. And it's like, obviously everybody loves the moment when Ant hits a game winner and he looks to Chris Finch and he's like, you don't want me to pass the ball. This is what I do. This is what I do. And it's like, yeah, that's sick, bro. That mentality that Ant has on the court is absolutely electric. But also it's like, sometimes, Ant, you do need to pass the ball. Like, sometimes the correct read is, hey, create an open shot for a good three-point shooter instead of forcing the issue yourself. And he just is still struggling to strike that balance this year as much as ever, unfortunately.
In a truly debilitating way sometimes, man.
Yeah, it can be a problem. And I give him props. I think he's somebody who has consistently played better in the playoffs. I think the pull-up shooting has been really good there. I think the strength has translated with him. And I think he has been a better playmaker in the playoffs than in the regular season, I would say. Like, I think he's had a couple of impressive moments there. And he's overall a guy who just keeps getting better. But when it comes to the offensive excellence of the guys above him, like Steph, I just think is so crazy impactful on a team level. And honestly, I thought about him up against Kawhi because I do have Kawhi one spot higher. I have Ant at 8 and Kawhi at 7. It was really, really close. If you factor in availability whatsoever, it's a no-brainer that Ant is the choice because that is something he deserves a ton of credit for. Anthony Edwards plays 75-plus games every single year. Nobody else really does that other than like Shai and Jokic, and even they aren't going to hit that sort of number this year. Mikal Bridges, of course, a great shout, Logan. Spicy P is another guy who's pretty much always out there on the court. But, like, when you talk about the superstars, he's been as available, as durable as anybody. Again, that's just not a consideration on my list. So I thought about Kawhi, and I'm like, he's a better off-ball player. I think he's an even more efficient scorer. And overall, I just trust the offensive process with him a little bit more. Again, I do love that on and off ball value. I do feel like Ant can be more prone to forcing the issue. Kawhi keeps turnovers lower than Ant too. Both supremely gifted scorers, but I just like building an offense around Kawhi a little bit more. And also, again, I'm going to keep coming back to the fact that Kawhi has his team since December 20th with a better record when he's on the court than Ant does with the Timberwolves in that time. Like, considering the basketball talent out there around them, that is pretty nuts. Ant's impact metrics this year really are not good. He's pretty much, like, got a +1 on off differential, so the Timberwolves have performed in terms of net rating very similarly when he's on the court compared to off it. Now, I think part of that is noise, but also, like you said, like, Ant is a bad off-ball defender. Like, he falls asleep off-ball all the time. He has low levels of activity. He doesn't generate steals off-ball. He is not, like, a valuable rim-protecting guard wing. And so, honestly, a lot of the similar criticisms in terms of off-ball defense to what I said about Jaylen Brown, but it's worse with Ant. And so it's not a coincidence, I don't think, that the Timberwolves defense has been noticeably better with him off the floor. And then again, he has propelled them to be a very good offense, but I still think part of this could just be tweaks maybe in system, coaching, mentality, whatever. When you can build a more fluid offense around Ant, when you can do more with him off the ball, I think he can reach a different level as a player because I think there's potential for him to be this nuclear off-ball scorer who doesn't have quite as much on his plate as a playmaker, but that's not the configuration we're seeing right now. And with the version of Ant that we are seeing right now, I did land on him at number 8, but it's very close between 6 and 8. I had these guys in their own little mini tier.
Yeah, for me, it's one or the other. I don't necessarily think Ant needs to put it all together all at once. Like, if he could just be a willing... it's just a mentality thing, too, man. Like, I'm not saying that Ant's, like, a good passer, but I legitimately just think Ant is... I'm the best player on the court. I think it's, like, sometimes an ego kind of... And I don't blame the guy at times. Like, when fucking Julius Randle is giving you, sub 15 points per game on sub 50% true shooting for a couple of months... I'd be frustrated when Rudy Gobert routinely shows you he can't.
All right, that's a little harsh. I don't know that Julius Randle is ever struggling like that.
I mean, it was a bad stretch, when Rudy Gobert can't catch a pass where he's wide open in the paint. Like, I do empathize and sympathize with some of the Timberwolves' offensive struggles, but Even so, I think Ant would make the Timberwolves offense better if he was literally just more willing to make that pass.
I totally agree. And this is something that young players, extremely gifted scorers, struggle with a lot. I'm better than everybody else. I mean, you want to see a great example of it. Look at A.J. DeBonsa going up against the Texas defense yesterday. I mean, he's a more extreme example because he's literally 19 years old. But, like, there is this tendency to think, okay, I am better than everybody else, so I should be trying to score no matter what. I don't really trust that guy to make an open shot, so I would rather force the issue against the double or in traffic or whatever than pass to that guy. And it is understandable, but it's rarely the right basketball decision. Like, at the end of the day, when you're talking about NBA players, a wide open shot is overwhelmingly better than a highly contested shot. And for Ant to get to the point where he can at times say, all right, fuck it, I'm just taking over as a scorer no matter what, I think he has to improve as a mid-range scorer, because that's kind of the range from which you can dominate and you can say, okay, you can load up on me. That's all right. I can get to my spots and I can barbecue you all the same. And again, he's improved there this year, but it's still not like an upper echelon weapon in his game. So Ant, we'll see. He might make his case in the playoffs. Like, I do think he's got a couple of really impressive playoff runs under his belt and absolutely has the opportunity to climb higher on this list this season and, of course, beyond. For now, though, it sounds like we both have Steph Curry in our 6th spot. So give some love to the old fellow because, my God, this season is just bumming me out, bro. His injury dragging and the Jimmy injury, and it's not a particularly fun time to be a Dubs fan or Steph Curry, I would imagine. But he's amazing at basketball, isn't he?
Still is, man. I mean, we always talk about Steph's gravity, and that is the biggest thing to me is just the fact that I always feel like I can take it for granted sometimes how much easier he makes the job of everyone else on his basketball team and how he allows so many different players to just slot in. Like, that's how great Steph is as an offensive player, is he just allows everybody to fit and slide into their preferred role because he is that great offensively. He's going to generate in the versatility that it allows you to build around him in terms of, like, not versatile role players. Like, that's one of the things that is so amazing to me about building around a guy like Steph is that you can have so many defensively slanted guys or quite literally one-dimensional basketball players that only do one or two things or just one thing really well, and their viability in lineups with Steph to play alongside him. These are guys that you question, could they play anywhere else in the league? Well, I don't know, but can they play with Steph? Oh, yeah. I mean, he just makes life so easy on everyone else, and in terms of shot quality, playing off of him, enhancing them across different play types and actions. And also, another area that you alluded to versus a guy like Anthony Edwards that Steph has always eclipsed him in is the off-ball value, which you can't take for granted because it is so important. Again, and I'm talking about all the different areas in which he enhances his teammates. A guy who can set good screens is suddenly much more valuable in a situation alongside a guy like Steph. And it is incredible to me, and I think it is the most underappreciated thing, that Steph can still move like this when he doesn't have the ball at this age, that kind of cardio. And again, just how it stresses a defense because Steph is dangerous anywhere inside 30 feet. Mm-hmm. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it is still the fact that he has got the greatest individual basketball trait, I think, in the history of the sport, that A1 shooting, that gravity, and that ability to threaten a defense anywhere inside 30 feet. And how easy he makes it, really, to build a team around him. I still feel like Steph belongs in the top 6. I think there is a gap to me. Like, there's a little bit of a gap between 7 and Anthony Edwards and those guys, and then Steph is like alone by himself here in this 6th spot. And then we've got another tier break with, I think, the guy in my 5 spot. But Steph's the man, dude. And again, he is so great offensively. It's like, I'm trying to think about potential knocks that people could have on Steph. Oh, he's not that impactful defensively, individually. Okay, well, I'll just put a bunch of guys who can play defense behind him, and he's still going to lead out a 120 offensive rating every single year, no matter the personnel, man. The guy he's He's just one of the greatest basketball players who ever lived, and I don't care how old he is. I don't care if he's lost some athletic pop. None of that really matters to me. Steph is still going to lead me to great offensive results, no matter the guys flanking him every single season, man. And until I see that drop off, Steph's going to be here.
Yeah. The Steph team build truly is one of the easiest in the NBA. Like, we've seen it so many times over the years. Oh, you need to play 2 total non-shooters alongside him. Yeah, that's fine. All right, you want to slant your roster towards defense? That's fine. Oh, you don't really have much ball handling alongside him? Okay. Oh, you don't really have much shooting alongside him? Okay, like, you have dudes who have functioning brains? Great. You're an elite basketball team when Steph Curry is on the court. Like, it's truly ridiculous. He is a one-man offense as much as any player in NBA history, and I think people can take for granted how ridiculous he still is offensively. He's still 27, 4, and 5 on 64% true shooting. He's still over 90th percentile isolation and pick and roll efficiency. Crazy on-ball efficiency while being by far the greatest off-ball player in the history of this game. He improves his team's offensive rating by 11.5 points when he's on the court. That is tied with Jokic for the biggest swing in the entire NBA. They have a 121 offensive rating when he's on the court. I can't even understand how that's possible with this roster, which is literally lacking everything offensively. Ball handling, athleticism, shooting, everything. And yet, even when a vast majority of the minutes Steph has been on the court have been without Jimmy Butler this year because of the injury, like, if Steph is on the court, you're an elite offense. And the formula in recent years has been, if Draymond is on the court, you're also an elite defense. And whatever decent role players you can stick alongside those guys, you are going to have such a high two-way ceiling, and somehow you are going to win a lot of basketball games, mostly propelled just by the brilliance of Steph Curry. This year, the fact that the Dubs are 23-16 with him, they're 10-20 without him. And let me tell you, I give them props for scrapping and clawing and competing in some of these games. It's an ugly 10-20. Like, it mostly feels like we are helpless with Steph Curry off the court. And, of course, Jimmy getting hurt has also been just devastating for them. But if you look at his entire career, if you look at since 2021, when, like, this new phase of Steph's career has started, and he's not as good today as he was in 2021, obviously, but overall in that time, they win 60% of their games with him. They win 42% of their games without him. Like, that's just the story of his career, man. Even if the box score isn't going to wow you every single night, the impact is absolutely absurd. The impact on his team's rim offense, as we've talked about with all the defensive attention that he draws on ball and off ball, like, in so many ways, he's still Steph Curry. And I just cannot believe the shit that he gets stuck with. Like, it is absolutely brutal, the talent that he has had to play with in this sort of extended final act of his career. But get him in the playoffs, and, like, last year, we literally saw him break an elite defense. And I get it. Maybe you look at his numbers from the Rocket series and you're like, oh, those aren't crazy counting stats. And it's like, yeah, maybe that's because they're zoning up, but keeping a body attached to Steph literally every second. So they are forcing anybody else to create anything or knock down a wide open shot. And guess what? It turns out when you are willingly playing 3-on-4 essentially for an entire basketball game, even if he's got bums alongside him, like, at some point Buddy Hield is going to hit some shots, and the impact that has, the decisions he forces defenses to make. Has anybody ever forced a defense to make more difficult decisions over the course of a game? I mean, even on a single possession, with all the things he does to stress you, with the crazy shooting threat that he has. Then Steph Curry, I would argue no. So last year in the playoffs, he had a plus 18 offensive on-off swing. Like, truly, I'm not convinced there's another player in the NBA that would have won a series with that team around him. Now, again, I'm not saying Steph is the best player in the NBA, obviously, but the specific way he stresses a defense, the specific way he can pick up for the complete lacking skill of those around him, it is still totally unique in the NBA. I don't know that anybody else could elevate this offense like Steph has. So he is still Steph Curry. That's what I want to hammer home. I get it. You're not seeing him every night because he's hurt. He's not on an elite team. The Warriors front office sucks, and they have sucked for a while now, and they have done a disservice to him. Steph Curry is still an absolute marvel, and it's just repeatedly translated. Like, we can look at all the recent postseasons. It's like, if he stays healthy enough to get in there, 2023, he's cooking. 2025, he's breaking a defense. He's Steph Curry. What more needs to be said?
Nothing. You don't.
This episode is brought to you by Fabletics. I'm a big fan of Fabletics. Damn near half my wardrobe is Fabletics. And when you think of them, you probably think athleisure. You think comfort. You think performance gear. Well, now they just dropped denim. That's right, real denim. This is a brand new drop. And the only downside to great denim, as we all know, is the price. But because this is their launch, new VIPs unlock major savings on their first purchase. So trying this new denim right now actually makes a lot of sense.
Carson, I've actually got my Fabletics hoodie on right now. I love shooting the pod in it. I love going to the gym with it on. It's super comfortable and it's super versatile. And now Fabletics is leaning into the denim game, and it's super comfortable as well. It's built for comfort without compromising structure. They look sharp, they feel good, and they move with you. They've got 2 different stretch levels because not everyone wants the same feel. Whether you want something a little more structured or flexible, you've got options with Fabletics. All the styles, straight, slim, baggy, utility, whatever your style is, classic, clean, or a little more trend forward, you're set with Fabletics.
Fabletics already has incredible deals, and we've got an exclusive offer just for our listeners. Get $29 denim when you sign up as a VIP. Just head to Fabletics.com/nerdsesh, take a quick style quiz, and be sure to select nerdsesh when prompted to unlock your offer. That's Fabletics.com/nerdsesh. So let's get into the top 5 then, Logan. Everybody knows who these names are going to be. The order is going to be the interesting part. Who is in your 5 spot?
This is where I have Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Ooh, interesting. Why?
I'm fascinated.
Bruce, fascinated.
Yeah,
fascinated by my mind and my body.
I thought that was gonna. I thought we were gonna easy agree with Giannis in that spot.
Really? No,
yeah, I did.
I'm higher on Giannis.
I mean, I think Giannis is one of the most unstoppable forces that this league has ever seen, and he has such a simplified shot diet. I don't know if I've ever seen a number this big. The guy is giving you 18.7 points in the paint per game.
Keep in mind, that's in 29 minutes a game.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he's also giving you 10 free throw attempts per game. That's basically everything right there, man.
Yeah.
28, 10, and 5 on 65.8% true shooting. And he's improving the Bucks. This is not a surprising number at all, considering the roster construction of the Milwaukee Bucks. He's improving them by 12.5 points with him on the floor versus off. And in his minutes, he's propelling the Bucks offense to a 121 offensive rating. The guy is scoring 77% inside the restricted area and 72% inside 10 feet. I'm going to repeat that number. If the guy gets a shot inside 10 feet, it is a 72%. Look, that is unfathomable. Giannis, please leave. Please go somewhere else. You cannot win with the Milwaukee Bucks. It is just time. I appreciate your loyalty and what that says about you as a human being. It is very endearing in this modern NBA landscape where everybody wants to jump ship and take the easy way.
And you love the Cal Sheet stuff that he's doing. You're super into that
I
as well.
hate that. Fuck Cal Sheet. Fuck Polymarket. Fuck all the prediction markets.
Well, there go all of our sponsors.
Don't like that. I don't bang with any of that.
Okay. Just financially ruining the show here for some moral high ground.
Morals.
You disgust me.
Giannis, it's
think
time,
about the
man.
bottom dollar every once in a while.
I don't think he's going to leave, though, if I'm being honest with you, man.
I don't know, dude. It's like the dumbest saga ever. It's dumb because for Giannis more than anything, I just want him to be free.
What I also don't understand...
it just hasn't happened. And now, like, the latest report that the Bucks want to shut him down, because of course the Bucks want to shut him down.
Yeah.
The Bucks are in tank mode, but Giannis is like, no, I want to be out there. I want to be playing. I want to be competing. Like, their goals are just so at odds with each other. And the idea of what they can achieve, given all of the missteps they've made and all the ways they've bungled around him, like, it is so not compelling because the floor here is just so low. Like... This sucks. This sucks that this is how Giannis is spending some of his best years. I hate it.
It's kind of how you feel about Steph.
It is, but it's like at least Steph has won 4 rings, and in some ways it's worse that he's 37 and still playing like this, and they're still fucking him. But, like, Giannis is in his prime years still, man, like his true peak years.
And that's what I really don't understand, is because the comparison that I've seen a lot of people make is to that of Kevin Garnett in Minnesota and, loyal to the soil, wanting to stick it out with the team that drafted you. The difference there, Garnett didn't get the ring, and you can understand why it meant so much to him and him holding on. I got to get the ring. Giannis, you did it, man.
Yeah.
You got the ring. Like, you brought it home to Milwaukee. Respectfully, you don't owe them anything.
Yeah.
And I would just, like you said, man, at this stage in your career, being one of the 5 most impactful players in the sport, dude, just tell them, you guys can't possibly build a winner around me. You bungled the Dame shit, and that was some bad luck involved too, right? That's not all on the Bucks front office. But with what they did with the contract and then subsequently giving Miles Turner all of this money,
yeah,
it's unsalvageable. There's nothing that you can do that is going to make this team a legitimate playoff contender in the Eastern Conference. And I just so desperately want him to move on to greener pastures, because he can still win a title, and he can still be the best player on a team that wins the title.
Yeah, I am even higher on Giannis. I do have him in my 3 spot. I think when he's been healthy, he's just having an absolutely absurd season. Logan is about to crash out. Logan is about to freak out. Dude, I don't think that's crazy at all. Considering that my criteria is I don't care about availability, when you're on the court, how good are you? Like, the dudes in my 4 and 5 spot, to me, they have to prove that they belong above Giannis, because what Giannis is doing on a per possession basis, dude, he is averaging career highs in points per game, assists per game, points created, on career best efficiency. Like, we have never seen Giannis better offensively than he is right now. Per 75, man, he's averaging 35, 12, and 7. That's on 66% true shooting. I have talked a lot this year about sort of this idea of creating at massive volume while minimizing the possessions that you waste, which obviously that idea is just efficiency, but it's framed a little bit differently and more holistically compared to people just looking at like true shooting percentage or whatever. There's a big 3 this year that is creating offense at truly ridiculous volume and doing so with truly ridiculous efficiency. I'm not counting Ty Jerome in this. Maybe you could call it a big 4. But those 3 guys are Jokic, Shai, and Giannis. Like, he is still there as one of the absolute best offensive players on the planet, while he is still a clear, significant plus defender. He is an elite secondary rim protector. He's still holding opposing players like 12% below their average at the rim. We know that he has some matchup versatility. Like, Giannis not being what he once was defensively doesn't mean that Giannis isn't still clearly a plus defensively, while he is also this transformative offensive player who has taken this team that is an absolute joke, this roster that sucks, and when he's on the court in his minutes, they're a plus 4 net team. They're a legitimately good basketball team. The second he goes off the court, they're a minus 8.5 net team. So I couldn't agree more. We said it so many times. This thing in Milwaukee has totally run its course. Like, Giannis needs to go elsewhere, because Giannis is still one of the greatest players in the history of this game. The knocks on him would be a team build around him can be a little bit tricky. I think that can be overstated, but people talk about obviously wanting to maximize shooting around him. Ideally, can you have a stretch big like a Brook Lopez? I don't think you necessarily need that, as long as you have a very good play finishing big alongside him. Like what I was talking about with Zion the other day. Like, you don't need a 3-point shooting floor spacer to play alongside these like super downhill players who initiate from the perimeter, but you need somebody who provides some sort of play finishing, somebody who, if not 3-point spacing, provides vertical spacing. I think it could work with Giannis playing alongside a guy like that, but at the end of the day, what you need is talent on the basketball team, and the Bucks just don't have that. So we'll see how this whole saga plays out. I get injury concerns being a thing, but they haven't inhibited it from being a ridiculously dominant player when he's on the court. The other knock that I would have is compared to the top two, this is really where this matters. I don't trust his playoff offense as much. I have some more concerns about him in the half court in the playoffs. That being said, last time we saw him in a playoff series for 5 games, he averaged 33, 15, and 7 on better than 61% from the field while he's getting to the line 13 times a game. Like, what he did to the Pacers, and of course, I mean, it didn't lead to a particularly close series because the team around him sucked, and that's a team that has really, really struggled to guard him overall, but just the production and efficiency and impact with Giannis offensively while being a clear plus defender, you can say, oh, but he needs the ball a lot and he needs X amount of shooting around him. It's like, I don't think that's that hard to do. It's a little bit trickier to build like a great, great team around him than the top two, and that's why I have him here, but versus the guy in my 4 spot, well, I don't want to spoil who I have in 4 and 5, even though we're about to get there. Somebody I need to see it in the playoffs. Somebody I still prefer what I'm getting in terms of the two-way value for the team build with Giannis. That's where I landed on him at number 3.
I am a little surprised.
Really?
I get it. And maybe I'm holding some... I still do worry a little bit about Giannis in terms of how defenses can gimmick it up against him.
But he's such a good passer now that it's like you have to have 5 bodies in the paint to hope to stop him. And if you do that, he is such a good passer. He's so good at finding shooters that he's going to create elite team offense. Like, Giannis is just flat out a crazy offensive engine. When he was on the court without Dame last year, they were like a +8 relative offense, which is why I was like, hey, he doesn't need Dame to lead to great offense. He doesn't even need a ball handling guard. He pretty much just needs shooting around him.
And you don't even need, like, that's just kind of crazy, too. I actually feel like that gets overstated. I think Giannis creates such an obscenely high shot quality for his teammates that, like, I actually don't think you need that elite. You need guys who can just hit open, like, standstill, catch and shoot jumpers, you know?
Totally.
I get it. For me, the differentiator was there is a guy that, I don't know, I'm debating on, I just prefer their skill sets a little more. One guy is... I didn't expect this at all, man. I thought we were going to agree pretty concretely that Giannis was in the 5 spot.
Bro was shell-shocked. Bro was flabbergasted.
There's a guy that I think has been
lump me in with you, man. I'm not part of your group think. Giannis is ridiculous.
He is ridiculous. I think there's a guy who's been on a torrential run for a minute, and I think he's heating up. And then there's another guy that I just think is a freak of nature, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. Not that Giannis isn't.
I understand that. And I'm not going to freak out about you having those guys above Giannis, especially one of them. I can really see the case. But also, like, when this guy is on the court without Damian Lillard since last season, okay? And think about the players that means he's playing alongside in those minutes. He gives you, per 75 possessions, 33, 12, and 8 on 65% true shooting. He leads the team to a +7 relative offense and a +7 net rating. Like, he's just an absolute monster, man. So I've made the case. We don't need to go into it any deeper. In my 5 spot, I have Luka Doncic. I know that this is going to be controversial at this moment because Luka is on an absolute heater. He has been, for the last month, just like ridiculously good. He's shooting over 41% from 3. When he is shooting like that from beyond the arc, there is really nothing that you can do with Luka. And overall, obviously, he's one of the greatest offensive players that we've seen in this game. He gives you 33, 8, and 8 on 61% true shooting. He creates the second most points per 75 possessions in the NBA. He improves his team's offense by 5.5 points. Like, we know Luka Doncic is an incredible offensive player. He is a fantastic volume scorer, of course. He's still like 90th percentile isolation and pick and roll efficiency. The intermediate scoring with him this year has been ridiculous. We've talked about his diminished ability to get by people, to get all the way to the rim. He has been able to supplement that with this really excellent intermediate scoring where he's 51% on intermediate 2, specifically great from floater range. He has the ability to post up smaller players and punish them with a combination of size and craft and shot making he has out of the post. He generates massive free throw numbers, leads the NBA in free throw attempts. And like I said, when his 3 ball is on fire, like it has been since the All-Star break, like you pretty much just sit there and you watch Luka cook you. He can get to that shot whenever he wants, and when he hits it at an elite clip, the scoring ceiling is the highest in the NBA, I would say. And then on top of this, of course, he's an elite playmaker, a brilliant pick and roll passer, brilliant at spoon feeding bigs off the roll, brilliant at creating for shooters, skip passes, kickouts, all this stuff. The last month from Luka has been absurd. And that's why, of course, he just scored 60 last night. Like, there's so much hype on the Luka train right now. And understandably so, because this year, in a lot of ways, has been like a Luka negativity party. And we have been a part of that. I think when talking about Luka this year, so often I have framed it in terms of Luka against Shai, Luka against Jokic. And for those reasons, I've been critical of Luka because there are things that I do not like about his game that make me lower on him compared to those guys. But that is like such a crazy high bar. And I think there's been a disproportionate amount of focus on what is wrong with Luka as opposed to the incredible value that he does deliver, where he is obviously a top 5 player on the planet. And I think on a national level, here and beyond, like, there's been, again, maybe more nitpicking, more criticism of Luka than there should be for a player who is ultimately as great as he is. Now, I do think there was a negative overreaction, and this went to a place where, like, we talked about this. It was getting ridiculous. I've been low on the Lakers all year, but Luka was very low down on the list of criticisms that I had about the Lakers. And by the way, now the Lakers are playing awesome, and a huge reason for that is Luka just being at this absolutely absurd level. If you look at the last month, like, he's been playing better than Jokic in that time. He's been outstanding. I do think, though, all the top guys are going to have these ridiculous stretches where they can outplay just about anybody. Luka has this ridiculous offensive ceiling when the 3 ball is falling at a crazy clip. And I mean, the box score production he can put up is just so monstrous. I do think at this very moment, there's been a bit of a overcorrection, a overreaction in the positive direction with Luka, which honestly is totally fair because, again, this year, I mean, so much of the discourse about him has been negative considering what a great player he is. But the reason I have him in my 5 spot is when you're talking about these guys who are such supreme talents, who can all have their stretches where it's like, oh my God, is this guy the best player in the world or whatever? And we've seen a lot of that with Luka now. A lot of people proclaiming after this stretch, oh, he's the best player in the world or whatever. It comes down to who is most consistently impactful and who is easiest to build around. And that's where I think Luka falls behind the others. My criticism of him all year is that he is more flawed as a superstar than the guys above him. And ultimately, there are more ways in which he hurts you, and he hurts your ability to build a truly great team than I have with the other guys. He's not nearly as efficient as the top 3 guys offensively, that trio of Jokic, Shai, and Giannis. I mentioned empty possessions, right? How many shots are you missing per game? How much are you turning the ball over per game? He leads the NBA in that category, and he averages, like, per 75 possessions, 4.5 more empty possessions than Shai or Jokic, while Jokic is creating slightly more offense, and Shai is creating almost an identical amount of offense, 1.5 points fewer in total between scoring and assists, but doing so while, again, wasting way fewer possessions. And then you do have the rigidity of the hyper ball dominance with Luka. That's a criticism that I would leverage on him against a guy like Jokic, who does have such an ability to fit into an offense, to be so impactful in so many different ways, quick touches, amplifying his teammates with screening, having an impact with offensive rebounding, the willingness to play off ball, all these different things on the margins he does that make his team better. Luka obviously has an incredible ability to create offense, but it is overwhelmingly going to come with the ball in his hands, and I don't think that unlocks the highest ceiling for a team offense. And then I do still have some concerns about the extreme reliance on the step back 3, which is an up and down shot for him, and that's why I think you have to consider, as this Luka hype train is at its peak right now, that it's like he can shoot 41% from 3 for a month. He's never, ever going to do it for a season. He's never come close to doing it for a season. If you look at regular season and playoffs combined, Luka has never shot 37% from 3 in a total season. His career best before this year is 36.9%, again, if you include the playoffs with the regular season. Earlier this year, we saw Luka go through a brutal down 3-point shooting stretch, at which point pretty much the consensus was, and I was very much on board with this, yes, the production is still great, but there is something of a tendency to bog down the offense and to consistently force the issue with this shot that isn't falling at the clip that you would like it to be when he's taking it at this volume. And you can say, all right, well, you should be just as reactive to the hot stretches with Luka as the cold stretches from three. And I think that's totally fair. But I do think when we talk about consistency, it concerns me when you're so reliant on a shot that in a small sample size can go the wrong way for you, compared to the confidence that I have in the supreme scoring consistency of a Shai, not to mention the supreme efficiency of a Shai. Like, there is a big difference there still. And then you do have the high turnover numbers from Luka, which I do think also limit his offensive efficiency. And of course, when we talk about flaws, him being a defensive entry point. That's why there are people who are talking about the MVP conversation right now and making the case for Luka. And I still just don't see it against Shai, because it's like the ease of building a great team around Shai, who is this monumental offensive talent, creates with, again, almost identical volume on substantially better efficiency to Luka on a per possession basis, while he is also a plus defender. Like, the fact that you do have to work around Luka's flaws defensively, considering that he is very slow-footed, considering that he's often a very low-effort defender, I do think when you talk about maxing out a ceiling, the ways in which you can hurt a team, the ways in which you can, again, make it a little bit trickier to build an elite basketball team around you are the knocks on Luka. Ultimately, though, this is mostly just about the fact that the top four is completely insane right now. And it's maybe the strongest top five in NBA history, as we have said throughout this year. That's pretty much it. I'll make the case for the guy in my 4 spot. I do believe that he is more impactful. Production and impact are not the same thing. Luka's production is always going to be top tier. His impact is not as consistently top tier. The ease of a team build with him is not as easy as it is for the guys in my top 4. That's my belief. That's why I have him in my 5 spot. That being said, what he's doing right now is so impressive. And I do hope we see the Lakers build the right kind of team around Luka again soon. And that is a team that prioritizes perimeter athleticism and defense and play finishing and things that the Lakers team just hasn't had this year, that have started to click more so in recent weeks. But nevertheless, they're certainly not the best built team to make the most out of Luka. And he still has them in the 3 seed right now. So he's a monumental offensive talent, but ultimately flawed enough to still have him in my 5 spot.
I don't disagree with a lot of the individual concerns that you made about Luka in terms of the shot diet and the things we've been critical about, the high turnover numbers, the ball dominance, stuff like that. I do disagree about the team build thing, though. When I look at him versus Giannis, I don't really think it's all that different. Like, I think you're looking for... I mean, like, obviously it's different in terms of the types of personnel. You need a little bit more offensive personnel, I think, around a guy like Giannis. You need more defensive personnel. I actually think it's really easy to build a championship contender around Luka. I get that you're the defensive issues, and ultimately that's why the Mavericks traded him, right? And Nico and Jason Kidd were super aligned. They want defensively slanted guys. You can't win a title if you don't have a defensively oriented roster.
Can I ask you this when we talk about this? When it comes down to just impact, like the fact that Giannis's teams throughout his career have been, since 2020, let's look at, since Luka became a superstar, they're like 11 points better with him on the court. Luka's teams are like 4 points better. Like, Giannis is somebody we've seen lead to truly, truly dominant team results. We've never seen that from Luka.
I'm still trying to wipe away, and maybe I'm unfairly holding this against him, Giannis's shortcomings when teams like Miami build the wall against him. But
okay, we're talking about like 2020 there.
And Giannis hasn't been healthy. That's why we don't have other playoff series to go off of with Giannis.
The last playoff series we saw, the team was packing the paint and setting multiple bodies at him the entire time, and he gave
Indiana didn't have any kind
numbers
of defensive personnel that could match up.
But most teams don't. Most teams don't.
I get that. I think the Lakers have built such a bad roster around him, and none of the guys around him fit. Luka is so immensely talented offensively that I actually think it is easy to build a winner around him if you don't allocate.
It is easy. I'm saying, is it as easy as the top 4?
I think I would rather have Luka going into a playoff run than Giannis. I believe in Luka more as an offensive engine than Giannis because of that over-the-top shot making. And I know that you disagree, and the
no, I agree that Luka's a better offensive player than Giannis. I disagree that he's a better basketball player than Giannis because of the massive defensive gap.
And I completely understand that. I just think the Lakers roster is so catastrophically bad in terms of the ideal team that you would want to build around Luka. Like, I'll just always go back to how the kind of pieces that Dallas put around him. Give me athletes, give me defense, give me play finishers. Boom, we're going to go compete for a championship. And again, the individual concerns that you're laying out there, the jump shot leaving him less insistent on getting downhill. I agree with a lot of these concerns, but Luka, when he gets in that mode, is unstoppable, and I still feel like we have yet to... I feel like we're going to get that guy again, and he is just going to light somebody's face on fire when he has the team around him. And he's such an elite offensive player that even with his flaws with the defense, I just don't think they have the roster around him to really go out there and compete. And I don't know how much to hold that against Luka for. LeBron, on a $50 million contract, is one of the most overpaid players in basketball.
I don't hold it against Luka at all. I mean, I said I don't think the Lakers have built a good team around him, and still he has them in the 3 seed. Like, it's a testament to how valuable he is because his offense is that great. But again, I think this comes down more so to just specific comparisons against the top 4. Like, how high do you have Luka? Are you just arguing him against Giannis, or does it go beyond that? Okay.
No, I want Wemby. I think it is so easy to build a winner around Wemby, too. I think it's easier than that. And so maybe I'm unfairly holding Giannis's unavailability against him in the playoffs over these past few seasons. I'll say it like this, and I'll make it real simple because I don't want to walk in circles on this. Luka scares me more going into a playoff run than Giannis.
Okay. We can agree to disagree. I think that you have more avenues to building a great team around Giannis. I think we have seen that, and I think it's there in the impact stuff, and I think it's there just in the logic of team building.
You know what? And I don't want to be...
Giannis is so great offensively now, comparing it to 2020 or even 2023. Like, he's a different beast now. He's a different level of passer, and somehow his rim finishing and scoring has gotten even more truly unstoppable. And in all these different ways, he's just the best offensive player he's ever been. And you talk about wanting to see justice done to a guy with the team built around him. My God,
I was just going to say, I don't want to be unfair to Giannis and not recognize that the Bucks have also, I mean, they have built, it's not even close. Like, the Lakers at least are talented. The Bucks don't have anybody.
Let me lay it out this simply. When Giannis is on the court, if we look at this year, he produces as much total offense as Luka. He does so more efficiently. He leads to better team offense, and he leads to a much larger on-off swing overall. That's my case for Giannis. I think
mind
the
is
impact with him is greater. Okay.
My mind is not going to be changed. I'm dug in.
That's fine, but also, hold on. Your mind has changed.
Luka.
I mean, a month ago, I was having to tell you that it was ridiculous to be considering if you want Luka or Jaylen Brown. Like, I feel like this heater from Luka has really changed your opinion when he's always capable of this, and he's always capable of a stretch like he had earlier in the year. I feel like what you get out of Giannis is more consistent. Like, you were low on Luka. You were significantly lower on Luka than me a month ago, and then he had this month. And it's just interesting to me that it's changed your view that much, because I understand I've been critical of Luka. I believe in all the criticisms that I've said about him this year. I think all those things are true. I just think he also has this incredibly high ceiling.
I don't think a defense has answers for Luka when I do think a defense in a playoff series would have more answers for a guy like Giannis.
Okay. It's a shame that we haven't seen Giannis healthy in the playoffs more, because I think what we have seen from him is completely brutalizing teams. And although, again, I will agree that Luka is the better offensive player. You talk about defense not having answers for him. First of all, I don't agree with that, because we've seen him have back-to-back bad playoff series against really good athletic switching defenses that can take him out of his pick-and-roll reads, limit his playmaking impact, where against the Celtics and the Timberwolves, his last 2 playoff series, he's only averaging like 5 assists a game across those 2 series, and they force him to rely a ton on the step-back 3, and that's an inconsistent shot. Like, we've seen Luka actually struggle in his last 2 playoff series. We've seen him not be his best offensively, and we've seen him get relentlessly attacked defensively, and I think we know how damaging that has been to his team's defense. So we can move on. I don't want to have this conversation forever. Once again, I find myself in the seat of being the Luka critic. He's an amazing basketball player, but I am not the highest on him still, and this recent run has not changed that. So you have him at 4. I have Victor Wembanyama at 4. And it's almost the inverse Luka case in the sense that with Luka, you're like banking on such elite offensive impact, the fact that you feel like that translates to the playoffs. With Wemby, you're like, I don't know exactly what the offense is going to look like, but I know that the defense is going to be so absurdly impactful, whereas Luka, obviously, you know that the defense is going to be a problem in the playoffs. Again, I come back to the point that production and impact are not the same. And if you look at the production with Wemby, you're just not going to sniff the basketball player that he is. In 29 minutes a game, he is giving you 24, 11, and 3 on 62% true shooting with the best defense on the planet by a mile. But the impact this season is like historic. I mean, the MVP conversation has become all about now Shai versus Luka. And I want to be clear, I think Shai has the award wrapped up. I really don't see a very compelling case for anybody other than him. But if it were to be anybody else, I think it would have to be Victor Wembanyama when you look at the heights the Spurs have reached when he's on the court, the just ridiculous extent to which he has transformed this defense and this team, the fact that they're the second best team in the NBA with talent that we didn't think was going to be all that. Like, I think Wemby has been the second most impactful regular season player this year, only after Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. When he's on the court, the Spurs have a plus 14.5 net rating. Like, that is historic stuff. To contextualize that, here's every player on record to do that, to post a net rating that high when on the court as at least arguably the best player on the team. And I include that just so we get both Steph and KD on here from 2017. But Steph also did it in 2015 and 16. Shai has done it the last 2 years. Shaq did it in 98. And of course, this is in the play-by-play era, so this starts in 1997. Duncan did it in 05. KG in 08. LeBron in 09. Giannis in 2020. Rudy Gobert in 2021. And Victor Wembanyama this season. Now, that is a team stat. That is about your team performance when you're on the court. But look at the players on the list, and it tells you a lot, right? To be the best player propelling team success at that heights, you are overwhelmingly going to be an all-time great. And also, it's a team stat, but Wemby has a plus 12.5 on offswing this year. So they're this historically great team when he's on the court. They're this average team, essentially, when he's off the court. He just kind of breaks traditional player evaluation standards because his defense is that uniquely valuable. Like, when he's on the court, the Spurs have a defensive rating 8 points better than league average. They have a historic level defense when he's on the court. He is a one-man defense in a way that nobody else is in the NBA today. When he's off the court, they're a slightly below league average defense. So again, just this massive, massive swing on that side of the ball. We have seen him completely break opposing offenses in a way that nobody else on the planet does. What we've seen him do, specifically, you think about the Thunder, just because that's the most important thing you can do right now, is beat OKC, and his ability to be constantly destructive as a roamer and as a rim protector overall is totally unique. He takes away the paint for opposing teams in a way that nobody else does. And so you understand that then he pairs that with this really high-level offensive value. Obviously, he is multiple steps below all the other guys in the top 5 as an offensive player, but his offensive gravity is something that gives him an impact floor where his gravity as a roller is massive because the range, the size, the fact that if you put the ball anywhere in the vicinity of the rim, Wemby can go up there and get it. So the swarm that he forces defenses into, the depth with which a big has to play out of drop because they're more worried about playing the lob to Wemby than anything else, like that's impactful for team offense. His gravity off the pop, where even if his jump shooting numbers aren't like elite efficiency, you see defenses just scrambling to get out there and get any sort of contest on this 7'4" high-level shooter. Like, the stress that he puts on a defense and the offensive balance that he's put together this year, I really love. His free throw rate is up. He's putting the most pressure on the paint that he has. All the while, he's still hitting 36% of his threes at good volume, but he is, again, more of a dominant paint force than last year, which is what I think is so consistent from him offensively. So when you put that all together, the fact that his defensive impact is as significant as anything that any one player has on one side of the ball. His defense is what Jokic's offense is in terms of impact. Like, I think there's reason to believe that. Is it going to translate to the playoffs in the same way? Maybe not. But I don't know, man. Like, there's only one guy who single-handedly makes you a historic defense. Victor Wembanyama is that guy. And that's why I can legitimately see him making his case for number one in the playoffs if his offense is really good. And I said last year, coming into the season, like, it wouldn't shock me if Wemby was the best player in the world by the end of this season. And it still wouldn't shock me. Now, I don't think that it's a likely outcome, even though I think he is the future GOAT, because I think he's just going to get better and better offensively. I just need to see the playoff offense with him. Can I see his defense being the driving force in the Spurs winning a title? Absolutely. I can also see his playoff offense not quite being up to the level it would need to be for them to make it that far, for them to make a deep playoff run. Versus top 10 defenses, his scoring numbers are honestly pretty good this year. I mean, over 23 points a game on 61% true shooting. The concern to me is more so the playmaking. He's got a negative assist to turnover ratio in those matchups, and I just want to see him handle the swarm and the doubles and the physicality against playoff defenses. I'm certainly not saying that he can't, but I think we have seen him struggle some against those looks, and I think the really important counter for him down the line is going to be the mid-range game, because it feels like when it comes to self-created offense in the playoffs, that's what he wants to kind of live off of. We're like, okay, I can just shoot over top of you. You put a feisty low center of gravity wing on me, whatever. I can just turn around and rise over top. He's just under 42% on intermediate twos right now. Once he gets that closer to like 50%, I think Wemby's going to be unstoppable. I think that improvement plus his continued improvement as a passer and processor, plus probably adding a little bit more strength, that's when I think he's just going to be absolutely the best player on the planet. Right now, again, I worry about the playoff offense just a little bit too much to have him in my top three when I think those guys are such monumental offensive talents who it's easier to build a great team around than Luka, in my opinion. But with Wemby, I would hear the case for him being higher because his impact floor is just so insanely high. Like, again, man, there's two dudes in the NBA right now, or two dudes who are at their peaks, who have shown an ability to propel a team to like these sort of ludicrous heights. And it's Shai and it's Victor Wembanyama already in year 3. Like, the team is 41-13 when he plays. That is insane. That's a 62 win pace. With this roster, which is a good roster, it's a roster that I underrated, but it's unbelievable because they're still not rich with offensive talent, and yet he's offensively impactful. He's defensively beyond comparison. So where do you have Victor Wembanyama? Is he in your 3 spot?
Yeah, Wemby's in my 3 spot. I just think it's so easy to build a championship team and a winner around Wemby. He's the greatest defensive player I've ever watched. That's not close. He improves the Spurs' defensive rating by 8 points with him on versus off. They have a defensive rating under 108 with him on the court. Another staggering number, and this is unbelievable. I've never seen anybody with a number like this before. Victor Wembanyama has a negative 8.6 defensive field goal percentage differential on all field goal attempts. That's not at the rim. That is on every shot.
It's absurd.
It's actually incredible, and it makes sense too, right? I've been banging the drum for the Spurs all year long, and I think that it is a testament that to Wemby's ability, the Spurs don't have another top 30 player on my list. They don't. And yet, I think they are the second biggest threat to win the NBA title this season. And how easy it is to build the best defense or one of the best defenses in basketball around him with just, I'm not going to say average supporting talent, but more so guys in specific roles. Like, it's incredible to me. And I agree with you. I think the biggest proving point is going to be Wemby and what his offensive game looks like, but he has such a high offensive floor night to night because of his length and his size and his complementary skill set to whoever is going to be. You know, he's the lead offensive guy, but he's not creating from the perimeter, right? Yeah. But Wemby gets such easy buckets every single night. If it's lobs, if it's just him catching the ball near the basket and going up with it. And so, you know, is he going to be an efficient 25-point per game scorer in the playoffs? I don't know, but is he going to give me 20 a night with the best defense on the planet? Yeah, I would almost guarantee it because of the easy offense that he is going to walk into nightly while providing the best defense on the planet. I considered him up to number 2 ultimately because I think the guy in my number 2 spot's offense is so reliable. And number 1,
Yeah.
I think that's the most valuable thing that you can bring in a vacuum to me. That's why those guys would be above Wemby to me. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a world in which Wemby just descends and is the best player on the planet this year.
Yeah. If you look at the impact purely this regular season, like I said, I think it's top 2. The only edge that I give to the guys above him is sustaining that impact year over year, and the fact that I've seen it translate to the playoffs with all of them. I don't want lack of playoff evidence to be a criticism of Wemby, but at the same time, when you're talking about, can you proclaim a guy the best in the world without seeing him in the playoffs? Like, I would really struggle to do, especially when I do have a couple of specific concerns about his playoff offense.
Well, I think the specific concerns are valid, especially when we've seen the best matchups for Wemby are those defensive wings that can wall him up, that can keep him from actually backing these guys down. They can really bother him and get up into his dribble. And like you mentioned, you can't fully judge Wemby just off the regular season because playoff series are where we see teams make adjustments, try to pick out guys' weak points and their flaws. We're going to see it. And Wemby is either going to ascend and take over, and he is going to be the best player on the planet, or we're going to see some of those flaws realized and him be punished for it, and he's going to have to come back next year and fix it. Regardless, like I said, it is so easy to build a championship team around Wemby because what he does individually, defensively, he is the best defender I've ever watched. And that alone would get him very high on this list for me. It is top 3. And I think the offense is going to translate, too. I don't know if he's going to be as efficient as he is in the regular season, but I think he's still going to get his.
Yeah, it's just insane. It's insane. Like, the fact that the Spurs are this juggernaut this year. They're this elite, dominant basketball team. They're reaching historic heights when Wemby's on the court. Like, as high as I have been on Wemby, pushing Wemby future GOAT agendas in the offseason, did I think he was going to do that in year 3? Like, not quite, man. Not quite. So you just think about every single step of the way. Oh, he's one of the best rookies we've ever seen. He's one of the best second-year players we've ever seen. He's one of the best third-year players we've ever seen. And he keeps on getting better. He's added layers to his offensive game this year. He's gotten even more disciplined and smarter and more polished defensively. Man, I just can't wait to see Wemby in the playoffs. I just can't wait to see the playoffs, man. Like, we're at that point where it's like, all right, we got 12, 14 regular season games left. Like, let's get there. It's put up or shut up time. I want to see everything tested and proven out. Like, the Spurs in the playoffs are probably going to be the most interesting team to watch, and Wemby is going to be the biggest reason for that. So, I have him in my 4 spot. I do still give credit to Giannis in the 3 spot. Who is in your 2 spot, Logan? Well, we already discussed this recently, so I think we know, unless you've had a change of heart.
Yeah, I have Jokic here, and like I mentioned, I would hear an argument for Wemby for 2 because of what he does, really specifically against superstars. I'm mentioning, how easy it is to build an all-time great defense. He's the best defensive player I've seen, specifically how he can disrupt opposing team superstars and in these high-leverage matchups like Jokic, who is his most difficult defender, I would say. There are guys that match up well with him individually, if it's a Gobert, if it's a Big Zoo, if it's Hartenstein or something like that. And, in tandem, I think it's probably Hartenstein and Holmgren together. But individually, I would take Wemby just because of his length and what he can do to disrupt him on that end. Who would I take against Shai and the Thunder in that matchup? It's Wemby. And so Wemby just warps opposing teams' offenses, and I think he could be destructive in a way defensively that just makes him number 1 or number 2. But Jokic, in his minutes on the court, is leading the Nuggets to an offensive rating of 126.7. That is by far the best number of anybody in my top 30 and anybody we're going to talk about today. Again, the next closest guy is Donovan Mitchell with a 123.1 offensive rating. That's 4.6. That is such a massive, massive gap between my number 1 and number 2 guys when we're talking about the best offenses that are being propelled with these superstars on the court. Jokic's box score production is unbelievable. 28, 13, and 11 on 67.7% true shooting. And it's just so bankable. It's so reliable. The knocks I would hear on Jokic are really 2 things. It is the defense that you can build around Jokic. I think there's a very hard ceiling on the defense that you can put around him because of the position that he plays, the center spot being so valuable to a team defense. And then I would say the rigidity of the team that you have to build around him. Again, the thing that I'm saying that is a compliment about guys like Luka and Cade, they can take on so much offensive responsibility. I do think you have to slant your defense a little, or slant the personnel that you have around Jokic more defensively, but it's like he's so great offensively that and enhances everybody around him. That's a very marginal. Again, that is where, to me, it's not a knock on Jokic. It's more of personal preference of who you would rather have, and that is where I would hear an argument for a guy like Wemby over Jokic, but the offense is just so easy with Jokic. He does shit every single night that is just unbelievable, and his strength is always going to translate to the playoffs. He has some of the best shooting touch of any big man that I've ever watched. It's so translatable to the playoffs. Jokic is a boat, man. He's just unstoppable offensively on a night-to-night basis in a way that is only surpassed by one guy in the NBA, who I think is one of the greatest scoring talents in NBA history and just one of the best offensive players and most consistent in league history. So I would hear an argument for a guy like Wemby above Jokic, but I'm not going to make the case. I've seen it year over year with Jokic in the playoffs, and I just know what I'm getting, and I think that's the most valuable skill set that I think you can bring to the table is bankable, elite offense that translates to the playoffs. And there are two guys that are above everybody else in my top 10. And so that's why I think Jokic belongs here.
Yeah, for Wemby to make the case, he's just going to have to prove it in the playoffs. And what we have seen from Jokic year over year is so absurd. I have him in my 2 spot now, too. I'm going to try not to belabor any points here because we just did an entire Shai versus Jokic conversation like last week. And so as much as I love glazing Shai, we don't need to go crazy in depth with that whole thing again. But Jokic has clearly been the best player in basketball over the totality of the last 5 years. Like, he has improved his team's net rating over the last 4 years specifically by 20 points. And he has propelled his team to a plus 11 relative offense when he's on the court. And he has produced 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists a game on 67% true shooting. I do think he is the greatest regular season offensive player we have ever seen. And the impact of that has been among the greatest players in the history of this game. Like, I still think that Jokic is at a top 10 sort of peak in NBA history. I believe all the things that I've said about Jokic that have made me so high on him, although I did demote him from greatest offensive player ever to second greatest and just greatest regular season offensive player ever. The thing is, when I do think about the ease of building a truly dominant team, I do think Shai's flawlessness as a superstar right now gives him the slight edge because although he is not 100% of the offensive player that Jokic is, he is like 99%. Like, he truly is. I mean, it's not going to show up in the box score, whatever. But when you look at the offensive impact, when you look at the total offense created, again, even Jokic, I mean, he's only creating a couple more points per game than Shai, and he is doing so on like ever so marginally better total efficiency. If you look at like the points created per possession these guys are responsible for ending through a scoring attempt, a turnover, or an assist. So Shai is right there with him offensively. I think we have actually seen it with Shai arguably translate better regardless of matchup, where there are more ways to limit Jokic's scoring volume and at times sort of overwhelm him a little bit with the swarm and elite athleticism and force him into a couple turnovers. Whereas Shai has gotten to this point where his scoring threat is literally GOAT level. I mean, he's having one of the absolute greatest scoring seasons ever. I've got 2 great stats from Automatic NBA, who I shouted out last episode too. Just a great follow on Twitter. By the way, it turns out I did not invent the league adjusted points per 75 metric that I spent a while explaining going into our top 10 scoring peaks episode. Automatic NBA already has this. He just calls it inflation adjusted, but shout out to him. Always one step ahead of the curve, always mogging me with his stats. But here's the club of guys to average in a season: 34 inflation adjusted points per 75 on plus 9% relative true shooting. 2016 Steph, 2014 KD, and Shai right now this season. And he is doing that while he also keeps turnovers lower than any player we've ever seen with his sort of offensive volume. And that's where, if you look at the most efficient play types over the last 2 decades, among all players in a season have 300 possessions with any of these set play types, 2 of the 5 most efficient of the last 2 decades are a Shai isolation this year and a Shai pick and roll this year. The level that he is at as an on-ball scorer is the greatest that we have ever seen. The hyper efficiency from every level is unlike anything that we have ever seen. It is completely absurd. And when he pairs that with this playmaking leap that I do think he has taken, where teams are throwing the kitchen sink at him, and he is repeatedly making good decisions. He is hitting the right pressure points of the defense. He is making the passing reads with good anticipation and great court mapping and just creating wide open 3 after wide open 3 for his teammates, who are finally making those shots with Jared McCain on the team now and Jay Will shooting really well from deep. Like, he feels unsolvable as an offensive player, as much as Jokic does. Maybe Jokic is still going to have a little bit more of an impact offensively in some of those ways on the margins with the screening and the offensive rebounding and what have you, but put the ball in Shai's hands, and in terms of direct actions that you're responsible for, it doesn't feel like there's a more unstoppable offensive player in the NBA right now. The volume and efficiency with which he can create is like GOAT level from a guard. And then the fact that he's a real plus defender, the fact that he is one of the better rim protecting wings guards in the NBA, when I think about all of the crazy stuff he can do to elevate an offense so dramatically, and then how easily he can fit into an elite historic team defense as a plus, as great as Jokic is, even though I still think Jokic is the marginally better offensive player, and even though I think Jokic is a fine defensive player. Like, people get into these Jokic versus Luka conversations. I always think they're fake. I think that Jokic is a better player clearly on both sides of the ball because of the efficiency ceiling offensively, the variety of the ways in which he impacts the game, just the versatility of building an offense around him, and the heights of impact that we've seen from him offensively. He's just better there. And then defensively, too, he does more positive things with his great hands, with his elite defensive rebounding, with really high defensive IQ. Nevertheless, he's a bad rim protector. He's an average defender, and he's a center. And so what is the ceiling of a defense you can build around? And we've seen him contribute to a very good team defense like he did in the 2023 title run. We've seen the Nuggets as a team sort of flip that switch in the playoffs. But I think the ceiling of a defense built around Jokic is good, not elite. Whereas with Shai, it's like he can propel me to these elite offensive heights, and he can be part of this historic defense. And I just don't think there's any player in the NBA who can claim to have a formula that is that valuable. It requires him being such a truly brilliant two-way player. It's just incredible. If you're going to say who is the starting point, who you want for your team right now, just looking at this season, I would take Shai over anybody else. And that's why, again, last 2 years, he's got a plus 16 net rating when he's on the court. And his net rating when he's on the court without Shai and without J-Dub is even better than that. And I would think that they're like 39-4 now when he plays without J-Dub since last season. And they're like 48-8 when he plays without Chet. I don't have the exact numbers, but it's very close to that. Absolutely ridiculous. You put Shai on the floor, he's going to make your offense elite. And if you put really good defensively slanted personnel around him, then it's just like, who's going to beat you? Who is going to beat the combination of Shai's offense and a very good defense when he can so easily be a part of that very good defense? Nobody. And that's the answer, and that's why I think Shai's the best player in the NBA right now.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much dip on my chip, but I do think we could be entering an era of just SGA. I think the guy is effectively unstoppable. He's one of the best players I've ever watched, and I don't see why he can't continue to get better. The two flaws that he had coming into this season, you would have said, are the playmaking and the three-point shot. The guy's up to 39% from deep on the year. He also
44% on step-back threes.
Shoots 39% on pull-up threes. You know, like, that's what I say. Like, I don't know what you do with the guy. There's a counter for everybody, right? Ant, get up in his dribble, really bother him as a ball handler, try to run him off the line, force him into the mid-range. That's a bad look for him, right? Wemby, get up in his dribble, really bother him, play physically, see what you can do. Luka, try to run him off the line, force him to settle for those mid-range jumpers, hope that he misses. Whatever look Shai is getting to is an efficient, great look.
Like crazy efficient.
I'm going to read off by zone. 71% in the restricted area, 54% in the paint non-restricted area, 53% out of the mid-range, 50% on pull-ups. While he's shooting 39% on pull-up threes and 37% on catch-and-shoot threes. All while he's giving you over 9 free throw attempts per game, over 12.5 points in the paint per game. Has a ball in his hands an incredible amount of time while only turning the ball over 2.1 times per game. I just think he's the best player on planet Earth, and I will not hear an argument for anyone else. I just won't at this point in time. I won't. I refuse to hear it. And someone is going to have to put up or shut up in the playoffs and show me and knock him off and knock the Thunder off. Shai's the best player I've ever watched, even comparison to peak Jokic. And you could argue that Jokic is peaking now. I think Shai's the best. I don't know what you do with the guy on a possession-to-possession basis. I legitimately think that I see the guy coming, and I see the guy that's going to knock Jokic off his block, and that's Wemby. And I think Wemby is clearly the guy that has the potential to knock SGA off with what he can do offensively. SGA's alone. He is by himself. He is unstoppable. I think the Thunder are, I don't know about mow down. Like, I think the Spurs series is going to be competitive. Yeah. Denver can make it interesting. I don't know what you do with Shai. There are answers for everybody else. There are flaws. I don't know what you do with the guy. I just think he is the best guy that I've watched. I think he is clearly the best player in the league right now. And can I say something real quick about this? There's this new narrative that's cooking about the 65-game rule, and I agree with it, and I think that it is a stupid rule. People bitching about it, it doesn't matter to me this year. I don't care about it because the guy that is going to win MVP and deserves MVP did play 65 games and is going to. It's Shai. So I don't, with the Cade and the Anthony Edwards and the Jokic and the, are they going to reach the threshold? It doesn't matter because the guy that deserves the award is SGA. And so, like, that's a non-starter for me in terms of a narrative that is building about guys who could potentially win the award. Yeah. I don't care about them because it's Shai's, and he deserves it, and he is just head and shoulders the best player in the world. I don't know what you do with the guy, man.
Wow, head and shoulders. So
head
let
and
me
shoulders.
clarify.
I don't have an answer for Shai, man. I don't know what you do with the guy.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that he's the best player in the world. I would still hear an argument for Jokic if you're like, all right, but he can get my offense to such ridiculous heights. Like, again, I mean, a plus 11 relative offense when he's on the court over 4 years, and it's even higher than that this year. Like, that is absolutely unfathomable. That's GOAT-level offensive stuff. But I agree with you, and I think, I mean, Shai is just the more flawless player, and I don't think you could build a team that just, like, casually strolls into these historically dominant seasons. Like, again, when you talk about the club of players who have had those truly dominant teams assembled around them, like I mentioned, the plus 14.5 on-court net rating, Shai's in that club twice. Jokic isn't in that club, and Jokic has these GOAT-level on-off swings, so maybe the counter-argument is, well, he just hasn't had a good enough team built around him to reach those sort of heights. But again, I think those level of team heights, they require such excellence on both sides of the ball, and as all-time great as the offenses that Jokic leads to are, like, it is tricky to build a very good defense around him. But so you say he's the best player you've ever seen, Shai. Now you're talking about in your time really being an NBA fan, right? So, like,
now.
When is that? Like, because obviously there are versions of LeBron
past
that are
10
better.
years. Past
He's better
10
than
years.
2018 LeBron?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't agree.
I think Shai is effective. Dude, the efficiency in tandem with the volume this season, it's unbelievable. The guy is averaging 31.5 points per game on 55.1% from the field. Only 2 other players in NBA history have done that. That's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who did it twice in 71 and 72, in Giannis in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, you couldn't find a bigger Shai Glazer, but 2018 LeBron, I mean, the unstoppability as a scorer where you drop him in the 2017 and 2018 playoffs, and he's scoring like 34 a game on plus 8% relative true shooting, while he's also one of the greatest playmakers we've ever seen and a super impactful rebounder. Like, with Shai, what's going to be interesting is how elite is the playmaking in this playoff run, because I thought what he did against Denver and Boston consecutively was so outstanding. I mean, I talked about this in the video I made calling him the best player in the world. 43 potential assists across those 2 games. Last year in the playoffs, the strategy was super aggressive gap help, send multiple bodies at Shai, right? Do everything we can to make him beat us as a passer, make somebody else make shots. And there was sort of a 2-pronged benefit there. It was OKC spot-up shooting is spotty. Maybe they'll just miss. And also, maybe we can actually force Shai into some mistakes. Maybe Shai will still try to force the issue as a scorer, right? That was the thinking last year in the playoffs. Now you're at a point where Shai has seen those looks so much. He's so comfortable against those looks. It feels like it is now purely a cross your fingers and pray that guys miss, because Shai is going to get them the ball in their spots. We're not going to throw Shai off his game. 15 assists and no turnovers against the Denver Nuggets while he still fried them with crazy scoring efficiency. Like, it was a perfect game. And the Celtics game was not far behind. He actually had more potential assists in that game. It's just his teammates didn't miss shots. So if the best strategy for dealing with the player is do everything we can, play these crazy, gimmicky, aggressive defenses just to force the ball out of his hands, knowing he's going to make the right decision, but praying somebody else misses, and that guy's also a plus defender, like, that's the best player in the world. That's the best player in the world. I just don't think anybody puts you in a complete bind overall more than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
If the guy gets one dribble inside the arc and takes a shot, it's more likely than not that he's going to make it. He's over 50% everywhere inside the arc, and he's shooting like there's no flaws. I quite literally think that's the strategy that you should employ. I would sell out on Shai. I am sending relentless doubles. I am making him give up the rock every possession, and I am forcing the guys around him to make shots. I will die with other guys killing me, but I refuse. I think Shai Island is the scariest place to be as a defender in the NBA.
Dude, it might be the scariest place to be in NBA history. Again, he is the most efficient isolation and pick and roll scorer in recorded history. Both of those things this year at massive volume. That is insane.
That's why he's the best player I ever saw.
Yeah, well, okay, we're going to agree to disagree on that because, I mean, again, peak LeBron James. But, and by the way, we're not talking about historically. Obviously, we've done our top 10 player peaks and stuff, and, like, I think 91 MJ is the best player ever. I didn't
Shai's
watch him
going up,
I'm
buddy.
not that old. There are very few players that I could say Shai doesn't have the ability to pass. Like, again, I've said this so many times about him, it is so Jordan-esque. What he enables you to do in terms of a team build is like GOAT guard level stuff. I mean, MJ is MJ. The scoring volume with him is different. The off-ball value is different. But outside of that, like, there really are so many similarities. Again, people just, like, never seem to want to acknowledge that Shai is the best player in the world. And again, if you think it's Jokic, that's fine, man. If you're like, I need to see another playoff run from Shai, for the love of God, I get that. Like, I have started saying Shai is the best player in the world within the past few weeks. It's not like this is something where I'm, like, set in stone, no question about it. But I do feel like outplaying Jokic head-to-head, consecutive years, having the best season in the sport, leading to these all-time great heights of team success with massive, massive impact, like huge differences in terms of their performance when he's on the court compared to off it. Why is the burden not on everybody else? And it's really just Jokic. Jokic versus Shai is the conversation for best player in the world right now. Nobody else is consistent enough to be in that conversation. And yet it's like, is he the MVP, or is it Cade, or is it Jaylen Brown, or is it Luka, or is it Wemby? And it's just like, man, it's Shai. It's Shai. He's just the best doing it right now. And for whatever reason, people are just so reluctant to admit that. But like I said, this is where I'm ready for the playoffs, because I think Shai might do some nuclear shit in these playoffs, man. I don't know. The form that he has been in as of late, it is like, oh my God, He is going to absolutely pick you apart no matter what you do.
He's just a scary level of locked in, man. And
he is.
I love his leadership qualities. I just like the Thunder, man. I love watching the Thunder. I think they have the best culture. I think them and the Spurs have the best culture in basketball. I just love the...
And the Celtics. What? Celtics probably have the best culture in basketball, bro.
White tax.
Yeah,
no, I just like the energy that like there's...
For sure.
There's only good vibes. Like, everybody's rooting for one another. These are teams that play for each other. They don't... Yeah. There's no selfishness. There's no egos. They all love each other. They all want to win.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think those would probably be my top three. I think I would bump everybody else. If we redid top 10 contenders today, I would go OKC, San Antonio, and then Boston in that order.
I agree. But, I mean, OKC is, like, totally in a tier of their own, man. The shit that they're doing is ridiculous. They are 110-24 when Shai plays basketball since last season. The level of playmaking we've been getting from Shai right now is really just where it's, like, totally unfair. And, by the way, even in, like, the worst scoring game he's had in the last 2 regular seasons, probably, this guy is very arguably the most consistent scorer we've ever seen, right? Just the ability to get to a hyper-efficient shot at any level, do it no matter what on the ball. Obviously, he has the record for the 20-point game streak. The Timberwolves game last week was the most he struggled as a scorer, like in so long, and still really significant defensive impact in that game. Made some unbelievable plays at the rim. Excellent playmaking, created a bunch of shots for his teammates. I think he had 10 assists to only 1 turnover. Like, the floor for a Shai game, I just think it's the highest in the NBA now. And for so long, I felt like Jokic had that title because the offensive impact, the ability to get to it in so many ways with such efficiency was so inevitable. And now I think the combination of offense plus defense from Shai, it's just the best. So
I just liked it in that game. He didn't hang his head at all. He got it back, and that's just a great mentality to have, man.
100%.
My shots aren't falling, but I'm gonna bust my ass on the other end, and he didn't miss a beat.
And like, that's just not common. It's just not common to have a player who is that monumentally great offensively.
You know what I mean?
Defender. Yeah. Bro, like, there's a gap between the two of them as defenders because, like, SGA is such a superior off-ball team defender. Yeah. Well, that's a conversation that people have been having for years, and it's like, all right, Ant may have one flashy stop on ball. Shai has the ability to be a totally solid on-ball defender, and he always is.
Shai's locked in.
And he just, like, for being an offensive superstar, doesn't take defensive possessions off. Of course, he's not taking on the toughest on-ball matchups, but he's never just going to fall asleep. Like, he's always going to be active and help. And so, again, it's like, I don't want to make Shai out to be more than he is defensively. He's just a plus defender. But when you're a plus defender and you're that offensively, like, that's crazy. That's all-time stuff. So there you have it. I mean, we ended up getting plenty of Shai glaze off regardless. I just don't know how you can not at this point. It probably is enough. It probably is enough at this point, but what are we to do to entertain ourselves until the playoffs other than just talk about how Shai is on the trajectory to have potentially one of the handful of greatest single-season peaks in NBA history? Like, I think if Shai keeps up this level, no doubt it is one of the 10 greatest single-season peaks that we have ever seen, and it has the potential to go higher than that, and maybe that's a conversation we can have after this season, depending on how the rest of it goes. We appreciate you guys. As always, we hope you enjoyed this series. We apologize for the technical difficulties earlier in the week. We hope you're able to enjoy the episodes all the same. And we hope you guys are enjoying March Madness. It's just a wonderful time to be a basketball fan. We are going to talk some draft stuff next week. Yeah, well, you want to recap our whole top 30?
Yes.
Can't we just put that in a graphic or something?
No, I was at least going to say we could do 10-1.
Let's recap the 10-1. Let's do that.
In my 10 spot, I have Kawhi Leonard at 9, Cade Cunningham 8, Donovan Mitchell 7, Anthony Edwards 6, Steph Curry 5, Giannis 4, Luka 3, Wemby 2, Jokic, and number 1, SGA.
I have at number 10, Cade Cunningham. Number 9, Donovan Mitchell. Number 8, Anthony Edwards. 7, Kawhi. 6, Steph. 5, Luka. 4, Wemby. 3, Giannis. 2, Jokic. 1, SGA. We will see you guys next week. Like I said, we're going to do some draft stuff, so that'll be our March Madness tie-in. We've got a wonderful guest coming on next week. It's a good time, Logan. It's a good time to be alive. There you have it. Some of these rankings are going to age very poorly. Some of these rankings are going to age very well. And that is the beauty of the NBA playoffs, Logan. It illuminates so much. Can't wait to see how it all goes down. And you guys know where to find us. All of our full episodes on our YouTube channel and across all audio platforms. You can listen to the pod wherever you get it, across all audio platforms. And you can follow us across social media, TikTok and Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh for our viral daily social media content. So freaking viral, man. I had to take a moment to process just how viral it is. BBL reveal coming in soon. Logan BBL coming soon. Are you going to Dr. Miami? Really? Because you've already got a beautiful work of art.
I got a dunk.
There. Michelangelo couldn't have sculpted a better rear than what you've got back there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great point. That being said, Dr. Miami is sort of the Michelangelo of our time, if you will.
I'm actually going, my first trip is going to be to Turkey for the hair man.
That's valid. That's valid. I'm going to Korea for the ear man. I'm getting rid of my ears. I'm not doing the thing where you like get them pinned back. I just don't need them. I'll just take a couple holes. Hole here, hole there. Some you can stick an AirPod in. This is beauty culture, Logan. I mean, it's causing us to think outside the box.
You gotta look smacks. Yeah, no, I get it.
You gotta look smacks. I mean, do you have hunter eyes? Do you have a positive or a negative canthal tilt? Are you bone smashing? Now hold on, that gesture is bone smashing. What I'm doing right there. Don't make that out to be anything else. Don't try to put that in some of your viral, no context Nerd Sesh clips accounts that are so viral. Don't do that. I'll freak out.
Boner mashing.
Oh, Logan! I'll see the kid from the top rope! And with that, I've been Carson Brever.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.